I have a love-hate relationship with scary games, kinda like my parents' marriage, but with less domestic abuse. The Dead Space series is one of the best horror franchises, and I think everyone can agree on that, unless you count like Dead Space 3 or the even worse hacking Dead Space game. Yeah, you might not know about this one. It was on Xbox Arcade, and this is what the gameplay looked like. No third-person survival horror, just some weird hacking mini-games like this tower defense one. Even Dead Space Mobile was better than this. But excluding all that hot garbage, the rest of the series is pretty gosh darn good. Walking down the corridors of an abandoned space station using whatever future tech you could find to fend yourself off from some of the most disgusting creatures in the universe. And occasionally, necromorphs too. Beyond the excessive gore, deep lore, and psychosis-inducing ambience, lies some remarkable gameplay. Not only does the player get to use some of the most interesting weapons with a wide array of variation, but you also get to use stasis to freeze enemies or objects and kinesis to pick up dismembered parts of the dead and launch them with lethal velocity at whatever's still moving. All in all, you get incredible gameplay that rewards its player with synergistic action. Getting rushed by a slasher? Slow it down with stasis. Use the extra time to shoot off its deadly appendage, no, not that one.
My bad, bro, my bad.
And then pick up the recently caught off slicer with kinesis and whip it back at the necromorph for the killing blow, saving yourself some valuable ammo. It's amazing and so much fun, but this wouldn't be a crispy 645 video unless I made this game absolute torture for myself. In a game where I need to avoid being damaged as much as possible, where I have to fight creatures that explode on contact, and where I have to take down giant glops of man-killing flesh on multiple occasions, can I beat Dead Space without guns? Okay, technically, I don't think these are all guns, so really the challenge is, can I beat Dead Space without using any handheld weaponry? But I don't think many people would click on a video with a title like that. Not like many people click on my videos anyways. Here are the rules to make it clear for the challenge. Any of the listed weapons on screen are off limits, and a use of them will count as a fail. So anything I could buy from the store and equip in my weapons inventory. Even though the flamethrower isn't a gun, I still can't use it. What I can use are melees. In Dead Space there's two types, the Mike Tyson and the Baby Stomper. Stasis doesn't actually damage enemies, but while frozen I can go in close and beat them up or run away like a scared child. And finally, kinesis. With this I can pick up small objects to clear a path or shoot back at enemies. Now originally when testing out this challenge I tried it on hard, but that seems impossible. On top of having very low rates of item drops making it harder to find heals and money for upgrades, on hard the enemies do significantly increased damage, and in Dead Space there is no way to dodge incoming attacks, block incoming attacks, or no abilities that allow Isaac to have quick movements, meaning I'm going to be taking a lot of damage during the run. So for this challenge, hard just doesn't seem possible. Playing on easy feels like a cop-out, but honestly I don't think it's possible otherwise. Nothing else to explain here, so let's just get started with the run.
Dude, are you 5?
Yeah, 5 inches deep in your ball.
The game starts with a video call from Isaac's girlfriend, Nicole. For 240p, she's pretty hot. Hope she lives throughout the game.
Is a literary device.
The video cuts off and introduced to Isaac and the rest of his crewmates. See, we were sent here by the CEC Corporation on a maintenance mission to help out the USG Ishimura, the mining spaceship Nicole is on. The ship sent out a distress call before going completely radio silent. While attempting to dock into the Ishimura's ship bay, we're struck by a rock and crash land inside. You have to be pretty bad at driving to crash land an automated docking procedure. The game must think I'm a year old because it immediately gives me instructions on how to walk. I'm a fully grown adult. I'm pretty sure I know how to walk. The crew of the shuttle consists of Isaac Clarke, the engineer and character you play as, Zach Hammond, the senior security officer and leader of the crew, Kendra Daniels, who is basically just the IT person, and then these two guys. You're probably wondering why I didn't introduce these characters, and it's because I don't want you to be too emotionally attached to them. In the flight lounge, I tried stomping on some boxes, but I guess Isaac, a 45-year-old man, hasn't learned how to do that yet, so the game doesn't let me. The doors are locked and no one seems to be here, even though there should be a crew working in the hangar, so I'm sent to the next room to get a damage report of the Ishimura when all of a sudden a quarantine starts. The room goes dark, you can hear something moving in the vents, probably the imposter, but it's not, and you see the first necromorph of the game drop right behind the crew. Now Isaac can clearly see this monster, and can tell his buddy doesn't know it's behind him, so I don't know why Isaac wouldn't scream at the top of his lungs warning him. The devs made Isaac mute in this game. It was done so the player would feel more immersed in his character. I get it, and I think it does work for what they wanted, but in scenes like this, it just kind of seems stupid to have Isaac stand there silently as his friends and crewmates get brutally slaughtered right in front of him. Anyways, now you know why I didn't tell you those guys' names, as they both get turned into corpses real quick. Kendra and Hammond escape out the back and I run down the hallway behind me. Nothing to do but run as the necromorphs drop from the vents and chase me down. Fortunately, this one necromorph decided to change his animation right before he jumped on me. Got to the elevator and escaped. Well, almost. Yeah, you can tell I played this game a few times. At the floor below, I get my first weapon of the game, the plasma cutter. This laser pistol is the main gun of the Dead Space series and is super fun to use. It's designed to cut off the limbs of necromorphs easily, something I can't do for the challenge. Thankfully, when picking up the gun, Isaac also gains the ability to stomp and punch, so I can officially start doing damage. Open the door, watch this random guy die, and then started beating up my first necromorph. Now, I started punching his fleshy ass, but the bastard can block my attacks. This is a slasher, the most common necromorph type. Usually pretty fast and aggressive. It will outrun me if I try to run past, so I almost always have to fight them. But the most annoying part about them is their ability to block punches with its blades. It makes fighting them way harder than it should be. I killed this one here, but out of 6 punches, it blocked 3. It's a 50% success rate. So I have to find a more efficient way to fight them, because if I don't, I 100% will be overrun and killed when fighting a group of them. In the next room, I get a call from Hammond and Kendra. They're on the other side of the tram tracks, and Hammond wants to get to the bridge. Kendra, rightfully, wants to get the fuck out of here because obviously this is a death trap, and personally, I agree with her. They need Isaac to go around fixing the tram system so they can use it to get to the other parts of the ship. I don't really know why Isaac wants to help Hammond get to the bridge. They should just be focusing on getting off the ship.
Fix the tram, and I'll help you find Nicole.
Oh, okay. I get it now. Isaac is thinking with his penis. Men will literally do the dumbest shit just for the possibility of getting some action. Down the hallway, I find a necromorph taking a nap. I wake it up by stomping on its toes before performing my duties as a YouTuber and entering a boxing match. Around the corner, I found an audio log informing the player to cut off enemy limbs. This is like the third one you find at this point. And then in the next area, Hammond calls Isaac and tells him to cut off the limbs. Right before a tutorial prompt on screen comes up telling players to cut off the limbs. Yeah, it's comical how hard the devs are trying to break the fourth wall to tell the player how to properly play this game, but they had to. Reportedly, playtesters were consistently not able to follow the instructions, so they had to make them more clear than they already had. I mean, it makes sense they gotta tell people over and over again to shoot the limbs because most games don't have mechanics like that. Normally in a shooter, you'd aim for the body or the head, not the legs or, blade arms? Still, it's hard not to laugh after being told to do the same thing for the 10th time in under 5 minutes. In the same room, I get the stasis module. With it, I can finally use stasis to slow down enemies, and during puzzle sections, use the stasis to slow down objects, like this door here. Even though I froze the door, I still almost managed to cut myself in half.
Oh, this challenge is probably even my fastest one, just because playing on easy is just easy.
Wow. What great commentary. Use stasis on my first enemy here. While slowed, the enemies can't block my attacks, so it's the easiest way to get kills at the moment. And if I want to run past enemies with stasis, that becomes so much easier. Kamikaze myself by stomping an explosive barrel. Honestly, I just had to see what would happen. I ran to get the key card and just juked every monster I saw. Well, almost. Like I said in the intro, I can't really avoid getting damaged, especially because most enemies in the game are designed to be faster than you. That was my reasoning for playing on easy, but as you can see here, even when I get directly grappled and bitten by one of them, I barely lose any health. So I'm starting to think I might raise the difficulty later on in the campaign. After getting to the locked room, I get to the first bench. Benches are where you can upgrade Isaac's weapons or his rig. To get upgrades, you use these things called power nodes. They kind of look like mercury flavored lifesavers. They are very rare, but you can buy them from the store for a large sum if you really need to. Upgrading guns at the bench is obviously useless to me, but what isn't is upgrading my rig and stasis. When upgrading my rig, I can increase Isaac's total health and air supply, upgrading my stasis, and I can upgrade the total amount of shots I have and the total duration of the slowed effect. Seeing as stasis is going to be the main tool I use in killing enemies, I started upgrading that first. Barely made it out of the room alive and was just able to make it past the horde of enemies by freezing a few of them and running to the elevator. Thought it was in the clear when I got up top, but the necromorphs followed me up top and started popping out of the vents one by one. And again, instead of fighting them, I just froze and ran to the objective. Fixed the tram for Kendra and Hammond. They went on their way to the bridge as Hammond ordered me to go back to the crashed shuttle and start repairing it for use. Stomped on a leaper as I got back to the flight deck. Yeah, they got very creative names for the enemy types in this game. These guys will climb into the walls and jump towards you when they get the chance. Unable to block my attacks, they are pretty easy to kill. Got inside the ship, ran a diagnostic test just to find out it's about to explode and I need to get my orange ass out of there. A bunch of enemies spawn after the explosion and I just run as fast as I can to get past them. Unless it's a section where I'm forced to fight, I'm probably just gonna run past enemies. Kendra and Hammond call me again. There is no one alive at the bridge, and with the shuttle destroyed, they need to find a new way off the ship. Unfortunately, the computer systems are locked down and they need the authorization codes from the captain to open the back up. So Kendra finds the captain's rig. It's in the medical deck, but he is dead.
What? How?
I like how Hammond had the nerve to ask how the captain is dead, like they haven't been fighting off unimaginable cosmic horrors the entire time they have been here. Of course he is dead. Everybody on this ship is obviously dead, Hammond, you bald f***. Regardless, they still need the codes off his body, so Hammond orders his favorite lapdog, Isaac, to go to the medical deck and find the deceased captain. Before getting on the tram and finishing the chapter, I get access to the first store. I guess these stores are affiliated with the NRA or something, because even though this is a mining ship and Isaac is an engineer, the stores seem to only sell guns, ammo, and other military equipment. One of the available items is the first suit upgrade. Upgrading your suit is great. It gives you extra armor so you take less incoming damage and increases your total inventory space, which is very useful because I've been maxing out my total inventory space very fast. I'm not shooting anything, so I've just ended up picking up lots of ammo and then not using it. More inventory space means I can hold more items and more packs of ammo, so when I get to the store I can sell more things, giving me more money to spend on things that matter. Like power nodes for upgrading my rig and stasis, which are very expensive, like 10,000 credits per node, which is equivalent to selling 100 rounds of plasma cutter ammo. Or I could buy stasis packs and med packs, both of which are the only useful items to me at the moment. Got to the tram and ended the first chapter.
The most effective treatment we can try is me banging your mom.
Well, you would expect the medical deck to have the healthiest people all being healed by futuristic tech like medical gel. What the hell does that even mean? But everything has gone to shit here too, and you're immediately met with a dying insane woman. Instead of walking 10 feet down the hall to find what I assume is a room full of bandages, she chose to wait here and succumb to her wounds because she apparently knew we were coming and wanted to give this to us. It's the kinesis module. With kinesis, Isaac can pick up objects and move them. It's used for puzzle sections, but you can also throw objects at necromorphs for high damage, and some specific objects do very high damage. You can also do stuff like this, which is always fun. Grabbing kinesis is super useful for me during this challenge because it's the only way I can damage enemies at range, and certain enemies, like bosses or guardians, can only be damaged at range. In the main section of the medical deck, Hammond calls me to tell me that the path is blocked, so I have to make an IED like I'm the late Ted and break through this barricade to get to the captain's body. After almost getting squished by a door for the second time this run, I end up in a large room where quarantine starts and I get swarmed by some slashers. Unlike other rooms, I can't just run to the next section here. Like most games, some sections will have enemies that are skippable by continuing your objective, and other sections will have unskippable enemies where your objective won't be accessible until they're defeated. In the first Dead Space, when a quarantine starts, that means I'm in a section where all enemies must be killed. Got a bit overwhelmed during this fight and took more damage than I would like to. Even though enemies go down 3 swings, they end up blocking most of them, so I have to abuse my stasis, which is still the best way to kill enemies. The quarantine's still up, so there must be some enemies left on level below me. I head to the elevator, but first I grab one of the blades off a dead slasher. Like I said earlier, some objects can be thrown with kinesis to do high damage, and slasher blades are one of them. I pick it up and carefully carry it down to the lower level. A legless slasher crawls toward me. I shoot the arm of its fallen brother right through its torso, killing it. You can see just how useful kinesis is. The problem is finding these objects that can do high damage, because in the middle of a fight, when there's 5 different enemies attacking me, it's hard to look on the ground for a random knife arm to whip at someone else, especially when I know I can use my stasis and beat everyone up like I'm playing Street Fighter and not a third-person shooter. Had to fight a few more slashers and miss the stasis shot, which almost caused me to die. After healing up and getting to the next section, I get introduced to lurkers. Dead Space does this thing in all its games where it likes to introduce new enemy types via a glass window, where Isaac just watches someone get killed by the new necromorph. Like, it's fine, whatever, but it just happens a surprising amount throughout the series. Lurkers are reanimated babies turned necromorphs. Now, you might be asking why there are a bunch of babies on a mining ship. And it's because they have a cloning room. Okay, so now you might be asking, why do they have a cloning room on a mining ship? Next question. Lurkers are small enemies that can climb on walls and typically try to shoot Isaac with their tentacles from afar, but sometimes you get too close and they grapple you. The good thing about this though is surviving the grapple means an instant kill on that lurker. For the other ones, I just try to stomp them to death. You can tell this is an infant because of how quickly Isaac can collapse their skull inwards. I can tell you from my own experience that only the malleable surface of an infant's skull crumbles like that under the weight of a human male's foot. After demonstrating that I'm so pro-choice, I continue to choose even when the babies are outside of the womb. I finally entered the locked room containing the first part of my IUD. Back in the main section of the medical deck, I sell back a full inventory worth of ammo for 22,500 credits, which is great. Selling my inventory like this allows me to use those big influxes of cash on power nodes, letting me upgrade my rig, stasis, and kinesis as fast as possible. Found someone trying to kill himself, so I want to help speed that up. I am a good Samaritan after all.
Bitch ass bitch.
Wow, I have such a diverse lexicon. Every once in a while you find one of these locked doors and you can open it by spending a node. It's basically always worth it to use a node on these because they open up rooms that typically contain items that have a greater value than one node. Plus, they sometimes have nodes or schematics inside. Because you never really know when you're going to stumble upon one of these, unless you use a guide. It's recommended that you always keep at least one node in your inventory. So when you see me upgrading myself at the bench, it's why I never spend all of my current nodes. Upgrading my stasis to have one more shot and increase the total duration. I also spent a node upgrading my total air capacity. Normally the air tank upgrades aren't worth it. Most sections of the game where Isaac is in a vacuum, there will be air tanks for him to refill his air. But because punching every enemy to death is going to take longer than normal gameplay, I figured it might be a good idea to upgrade my air in case those sections take very long. Yeah, that's what I made your mom sound like last night. I tried to resuscitate her, but she just wouldn't come back. I watched her die in my arms. Oh my god. I miss her so fucking much. Got to my first 0G room. Unlike every other Dead Space game in the series, this one doesn't let you float or fly in 0G. Isaac instead moves with weighted boots and can jump between surfaces in a straight line. I'm assuming it's like this because of technical limitations, and even though it looks goofy to see Isaac jump like Superman, it's honestly still a well-made mechanic for the time. The only thing that sucks is that you can't tell what Isaac can jump to until you press the jump button, and you'll either see him fly away or you'll hear this. So sometimes you just end up spamming the jump button while aiming around trying to figure out where he's allowed to go. Grab the last part of the DUI, doubled back through the 0G room, and fought some necromorphs this time. Only two types will spawn in 0G environments: lurkers and leapers.
Every second you're not running, I'm only getting closer.
Now you know why they're called leapers. Thankfully there are a bunch of explosive canisters in this room, and with kinesis these become RPGs for Isaac. I carried one with me to the next room because they're so effective at killing enemies. Was running back to the medical deck's main area when I got attacked by more subtly named necromorphs, the swarmers. See, they attack you as a swarm, so that's why they're called swarmers. Super easy to kill, but can be a pain in the ass, especially in hard difficulties where they deplete your health crazy fast. But for right now, it's just a few of them, and it's pretty easy to stomp them to death or just shake them off. Did some more shopping and decided to unequip Isaac's gun to see what would happen, and surprisingly, the game lets you do this. Set off the bomb wall right in front of it. Isaac is pretty dumb for an engineer. Got the next area with enemies and tried aiming to use stasis, but it wouldn't let me. I couldn't aim, use stasis, kinesis, or punch without a gun. You can still stomp, but with just that alone, I'll get murked. So I headed back to the store. Instead of the plasma cutter, I bought a new gun, the pulse rifle. I did this for a few reasons. One of them being that their ammo stacks in a larger quantity, 100 instead of 25, so I thought I'd be able to make more money from selling them back, but a stack of pulse rounds sells for the same amount as a stack of plasma rounds, so it turns out I only bought this gun because I'm stupid. Met another survivor. Well, not for long. As you could probably tell, anyone not dead yet from the necromorph infection has gone totally cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Something on the ship is driving everyone insane. In the morgue, I finally get to the captain's body, just in time to see it get reanimated by an infector. These bat-looking weirdos find dead bodies and reanimate them to create slashers. When you fight them, it's important to kill them first before anyone else. Normally, you could just use stasis when they're reanimating their first body and kill them then, but I can't this time because it reanimates the captain behind glass. The captain gets turned into a different looking slasher. He's darker colored and has glowing red eyes. Any enemy that looks like this are enhanced forms, which just means they are much more strong versions of that necromorph. Killed the captain, got his rig, and headed back to the tram. On the way there, I fought one more enhanced slasher. They are so strong that even on easy, it takes 2 full stasis uses to completely melee him to death. Hammond calls me again. Now with access to the ship's computers, they get information on what went down. The infection is some sort of alien life. I mean, duh. And it started on the nearby planet's mining colony before spreading to the ship. He also tells Isaac he needs to book his ass to the engineering deck and fix the ship's engines before he fall out of orbit. He apparently can't come with me because he needs to stay at the bridge. What a dick. He just doesn't want to go down in the deadly ship and is making Isaac do all the work. Isaac deserves more labor rights. He should unionize.
How unpaid internships could actually be the answer to a lot of the problems facing our modern workforce.
Hammond calls me at the start of the chapter telling me what I gotta do to the stick of the ship. You might have noticed now that every chapter is like that. Isaac basically spends the whole game away from other humans. Fun fact, well, less fun and more useless, Isaac is only ever in the same room as other people outside of cutscenes 3 times. All the other times he's separated by glass or some sort of gap. Isaac has to restart the centrifuge and refill the engines before the ship drifts out of orbit. Upgraded my stasis some more to bench. Learned that when you upgrade your stasis capacity, the game automatically tops it off, which is super useful if I'm desperately running low, but odds are on easy, I'll always be able to find or buy stasis packs. Crossed a giant gap and had like 4 slashers waiting for me. Tried throwing this fan blade I found, but that did nothing, so I switched to using explosives on the ground and well, that got the job done. Almost. I saw an infector turning a corpse into a slasher. I tried to get it killed before it finished, but I ended up almost getting killed myself. I get grappled a lot during this run because I'm always in close quarters. After killing both of them, the music didn't cut out and it started to swell. so I freaked out a bit and thought there were more enemies than there were.
Fuck's alive.
Kept going even when I was in the store.
Something's alive nearby.
So I checked the whole area like 3 times because I thought there was a slasher just like hiding behind a corner. There wasn't. I was just being a paranoid dumbass. Knowing my stasis was topped off when I upgraded its capacity, I thought the same thing would happen when I upgraded my health, so I headed back to the bench, upgraded my max health, and sure enough, my health was filled. Super useful, but again, on easy, supplies aren't rare, so it's not like I'm desperate for health packs. But if you're playing this game on harder difficulty, you can save a med pack by healing up like this. Remember before, I told you guys I got the pulse rifle for a few reasons? Well, I'm about to show you the main reason why I got it. By remapping the button to stomp to a different button other than the default, you can now stomp and perform your gun's alternate fire at the same time. If you have a pulse rifle, run into a wall and then stomp while alt firing, you get this. Yes, it looks like shit when I do it. That's because I'm ass at video games, but here's a clip from Ramsey's world record speedrun. Yeah, it's crazy, and you could skip whole sections of the game with it. The unfortunate thing is that doing this glitch requires me to shoot, meaning I'll still get a fail performing this. So it's only useful if I can use the glitch to skip a section where I'll get 2 or more fails. The reason I'm telling you about this now is because I might have to use it very soon. Before I attempt any of my challenge runs, I usually play through the game so I can test out the challenge, prep for certain sections, and note where I think I'm gonna get a fail. I do this so I can preemptively try skipping these areas or make hard saves before I enter them, so I can reset if needed. The first one of these sections is about to happen. Got down to the centrifuge, made a hard save, got inside, stomped on these weird looking dogs, fixed the centrifuge, watched another dog get turned into goo, kinda like my neighbor's dog when I hit it with my car. It's not my fault, it was his. He shouldn't have been out walking his dog that late at night. He knows I have like 3 DUIs, so I don't know why I thought it was safe to be out with me on the road. Exited the centrifuge, and when walking out, this happened.
Shit!
The devs must have downloaded an asset from Hentai Haven and added it to this game because that is one girthy tentacle. Held by the legs, I can't stomp or punch. Only shoot, use kinesis, or use stasis. Unfortunately, stasis doesn't work in this guy, and there's nothing for me to pick up and throw this tentacle. So I just lie there and get obliterated by the tentacle like I'm the schoolgirl in an 18+ anime. I need to figure out how to kill it or skip it. We get dragged, it's funny. Now before spawning the tentacle, I actually took a bunch of explosive canisters from the centrifuge room and stored them in here with me. And because I saved after doing that, every time I respawn, there'll be a few in this room with me. If I can get them in the hallway, then while I'm being dragged, I can grab them with kinesis and throw them at the tentacle for some damage, and a lot of it. Yeah, what I'm doing now looks stupid, but I can't get the canisters in the hallway any other way. If I step down this hallway, I'll spawn the tentacle, and if I throw them with kinesis, they'll automatically explode when they hit any surface. So I have to try to maneuver them by rotating the camera and letting go of them mid-spin, hopefully sending them further down the hallway. Going kind of down the hallway a bit, and then stepped over the threshold while moving the second one and spawned the tentacle again. I was able to grab the canister, and I waited until I had a good shot to throw at the tentacle. But nothing happened, and I died again. Maybe that canister didn't hit properly, or maybe the tentacle has enough health that I gotta use more than one to kill it, so I just gotta keep trying. I spent a while trying other methods of getting the canisters down the hallway without blowing up. This includes trying to shoot them and then grab them with kinesis before it explodes, but that didn't work. And I tried using the door in some way. I thought maybe I could force the game to fling it, but of course that didn't work. Why would that work, Chris? Spent most lives setting it up, but then accidentally spawning the tentacle and dying. After a bit, I found one method that worked the best for getting the canisters down the hallway. I would face the opposite direction of the hallway, kinesis a barrel in front of me, let go of the kinesis as I pulled the barrel towards me, and usually the barrel would continue flying past me and get some distance in the hallway. After like 15 minutes, I got a setup that was pretty good. So I made another save, so each time I respawned, the explosives would be here. From this point on, I had a few good attempts, including one where all the explosives went off while next to the tentacle, and another one where I got 2 direct hits. I thought maybe I need more items to toss at it, so I started throwing my inventory down the hallway so I could pick it up while being dragged, but that didn't do shit. So I finally gave in and reloaded my original hard save before doing the centrifuge. I'm not giving up yet. I quickly tested out if the tentacle spawns before turning on the centrifuge, and it doesn't. So as long as I don't complete the objective, I can freely walk down that hallway, meaning I can now safely prep the hallway full of explosives. Found 5 different canisters and put them all in different places down the hallway along the path I would be dragged, so I could pick them up one by one and shoot them at the tentacle. Finished turning on the centrifuge, made another hard save so I can respawn at this point each time, spawned the tentacle, and I shot it 4 times on my first try. By far my best attempt, but still it didn't die. and this made me question whether or not it's even possible to deal explosive damage to this enemy. I'm playing on easy, this thing should have like no health, so how's it surviving all this damage? I kept trying, but most attempts went about the same, so I went to the Dead Space wiki to see if there's any info on the tentacle. The only thing of use that I learned was that it's possible to kill the tentacles before they grab Isaac, but apparently the window to do so is so small it's a waste of ammo to try. Little do they know, I wasted well over an hour of my life on this at this point, so I didn't care about that, and I just gonna try it anyways. Loaded my hard save from before the centrifuge was turned on, reorganized the canisters so 4 of them were on the ground right where the tentacle would spawn, and 1 of them was near me to pick up. Turned the fuge back on, got to the hallway and picked up the spare canister, triggered the tentacle, and shot it just as it turned the corner. But even with the force of 5 explosive canisters, it did not die. So after a few more tries, I gave up and tried the only thing left I could think of. Jumping around. Maybe I can get an out of bounds here and I could skip the arm, but I had no luck. I tried getting the sweet release of death by flying headfirst into an explosive, but that didn't work either. I'm such a failure at life, I can't even make a good suicide bomber. I ended the stream and spent the rest of the night looking for skips, and unfortunately I didn't find shit. Only skip I know for this section requires me to shoot at least once, so even if I could do it, I would still get a fail. After 2 streams and 105 minutes of footage of me trying to kill this stupid thing without shooting, I caved, and I got my first fail of the run. It died in like 4 shots too, which confirms that it has very little health on easy, it's just unable to get damaged by the explosives. Kendra contacts me, they're starting to figure out what went wrong. Turns out everyone on the ship and the colony started experiencing widespread dementia because of an artifact they found called the marker. Don't worry about it, it's probably not important.
Foreshadowing is a literary.
Got a few more upgrades before continuing. Upgraded my kinesis for the first time. Unlike the other Dead Space games where you can upgrade the total amount of damage your TK does, in this one you can only upgrade its range. Last part of the chapter is pretty simple. Got the schematic for medium med packs so I could buy those, which is great. Made my way down to the bottom floor, fumbled this explosive throw and didn't kill any of the swarmers, so now I gotta tank a ton of damage. Healed up and realized I might be screwed because I only have 2 health packs left and I'm about to enter a room with a lot of necromorphs. Fumbled a second explosive throw. God, I suck at those. Ran to the back of the room so I can group the necromorphs up and stun multiple of them with just 1 stasis shot. It's a lot like training zombies in COD. Any item that has AoE is going to be most efficient when used on a group of enemies. Unfortunately, because the necromorphs sprint faster than you, it's not easy to do this. Used a fan blade, another one of the few high damage kinesis objects, and a slasher blade to kill the pregnant. Pregnants are named that because well, they're pregnant. If the player bursts their sacs, swarmers will come pouring out. Thankfully, it looks like milling a pregnant doesn't burst their sacs, so this never happens to me. Started prepping the room for the next part. Once I interact with the engine, I'll be locked in here till I kill enough necromorphs, so I need to make sure I'm ready for this fight. Started the engine, and for the 3rd time, I fumbled an explosive shot, almost killing myself in the process. I really suck at using these. Kept stunning and beating up everything that came close to me. I took a lot of damage and was low health, so I ran away to heal, went back to the middle, and finally used one of the canisters properly. Turns out this game is more of a spaceship maintenance game than a survival horror game because I again get a new objective that is just fixing something on the ship. The Ishimura is now in an asteroid belt, so I gotta repair its ADS before the ship gets crushed like that billionaire submarine. Oh wow, topical reference, huh? Unless you watch this video in a year, then you probably won't know what I'm talking about. Okay, well basically these billionaires went on a very dumb trip to the bottom of the ocean on a private submarine to see the Titanic, and they all ended up additional casualties of the Titanic. It's honestly a very interesting story. The pure stupidity of the ultra-rich is astounding. If you want to read more about this, just Google the name of the sub. I think it was like Lemon Party or something. They have pictures of the wreck too. It's very cool. They are a little graphic, but if you want to see them, just Google Lemon Party NSFW. Should be the first image that pops up.
These are things you should never Google, though you're probably gonna, so just proceed with caution.
Got to the bridge just to get jump scared by whatever this is. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to fight that thing in a minute. Headed to meet up with Hammond, but found the next suit upgrade on the way there. Instead of talking to Hammond and triggering the next objective, I ran back to the store to buy that suit upgrade. This way I'm able to buy the new suit before spawning any enemies. Ham tells me I gotta fix the power or something to get the ADS cannon on, so I gotta go around the map doing that. The first step of which requires me to go into the room that had that thing that jump scared me. So glad Hammond gives me a heads up about how big, scary, and dangerous it is, but a little insane that he just sends Isaac to go deal with it on his own like it's no big deal. Bro's just sitting down here on his iPad, probably playing Angry Birds, sending me off on a suicide mission.
Michael! Don't leave me here! Michael!
Oh yeah, remember this for later. Instead of killing this guy, Hammond chooses to use what I'm assuming is one of the last remaining escape pods to send this necromorph out into space. Hopefully no ships passing by decide to pick up this escape pod to help out what they think is a survivor of some disaster, only to be ripped to shreds by the necromorph. Yeah, Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Foreshadowing is a literary.
Wow, what a good plan, Hammond. You're so smart. That's why you went bald. Your head needed to make room for that big old brain. I headed to the room with the big monster in it, and surprisingly, the big monster is not nice. This is the first brute Isaac encounters. Not much to say about it. It's a very traditional brute enemy type. Lots of health and is very strong, but basically only has one attack, which is just charge. And in between charges, it'll have a downtime where I can get in some damage. It's pretty easy to deal with, even for this challenge. I just freeze it as it charges towards me, get behind it, take damage from some unknown source, I guess, and then start meleeing it as it recovers. Brutes will occasionally do this like huddle position, and when it does, I'll freeze it again and stomp on it as much as I can. I killed it fairly quick. The only real hard part about brutes is the amount of health they have, and on easy, it's a lot less than normal, so it didn't take long to stomp the life out of it. I honestly think brutes are misused in the game. You fight them a few times, but each time it's just a lone fight with them, no other hazards or necromorphs in the room, so it's easy to just dodge its attacks and kill it when it's recovering. Like, if they paired this guy up with a few slashers, then this fight would have been so much harder. After killing the brute, I got the final upgrade for my stasis module. I now have 8 shots, and each shot will freeze enemies for about 16 seconds. I headed to the basement to watch a video log of Dr. Kane stabbing the captain of the ship in the face, then saying, oopsie, that was an accident, didn't mean to, haha, silly me, so clumsy. Apparently it was just supposed to be a sedative needle, and somehow he missed the captain's neck, but didn't miss his brainstem. Sometimes you come across necromorphs pretending to be dead bodies so they can ambush you, but you can always tell them apart from the dead ones because they always lie down in the exact same position. So it's really easy to see ahead of time and the ambush never works out. Watch this necromorph get turned into a CPR dummy and almost got killed by a second brute a minute later. I know, I just talked about how easy they are to kill, but the game wouldn't let me through this crack and I got hit. Still, after that one hit, I killed it with no issues. Got swarmed by a bunch of leapers on the main floor. Knowing I needed to get them on the ground to hit them, I ran into this room so they were forced to jump on the ground and crawl towards me instead of jumping at me from the wall. With a bunch of stasis and Isaac's metal boot, it was no problem. Upgrading my total health again and headed upstairs. This room had some enhanced slashers ambush me right away, but thankfully there were some gravity traps I could punch the slashers into that would kill them instantly. Knowing that infectors spawned in this room after doing the objective, I started dismantling all the bodies I could find so they couldn't create any slashers. And that made my exit from the room super easy. Without any bodies, the infectors just tried to attack me, or the door, I guess? Oh, never mind. Yeah, still just attacking me. Met a survivor, but he didn't really want to talk. To get to the cannon, I gotta walk across the exterior of the ship while it's going through an asteroid field. So I just move when the area is clear by Superman jumping to cover and hide while the asteroids pass by. The automatic defense system is still being fixed, but we are already in the asteroid field, so I gotta use the cannon manually until the ADS takes over, meaning this is a mandatory turret section. Obviously, this is a giant gun Isaac is using, but I made the rules in such a way where it only counts as a fail if I'm using handheld weaponry. I did this on purpose because I knew for a fact there were 2 turn sections, this one and one in Chapter 8. They are not skippable. Even in the world record any percent runs, players still have to do these. Knowing there's no way to avoid these, I decided to write the rules in such a way where I can excuse any of my failures, because deep down, I am a coward. Notice these things kind of look like faces on my walk back. Also, some leapers spawn here, but I can leap further than them, so I get out of there way before any of them even come close to touching me. With the ADS fixed and the engines repaired last chapter, I should be done playing janitor and start looking for my missing girlfriend, right? But no, Kendra and Hammond still have to send their little lapdog Isaac on some more errands. Man, maybe one of the reasons they didn't give Isaac a voice was so his character wouldn't object to this abuse. Some massive organic growth in hydroponics is turning the air toxic, so Isaac needs to go back to the medical deck to create a poison before going to hydroponics to kill whatever's doing that.
Come on, man! That's too easy!
It's supposed to be an easy walk in medical to get the chemicals, because I've already been here and unlocked everything. But since then, someone else has come in and hacked all the doors, so I gotta take the long way around. Grab this explosive canister and use it on this necromorph, killing it instantly, and I didn't know it at the time, but this one move saved me an hour or 2 of gameplay, because the enemy I just killed is probably the hardest enemy in the game for me to fight without guns. But I'll explain more about Guardians soon, because trust me, I spend a good amount of time fighting the other ones. A little further in, I meet Dr. Mercer. He's gone fully cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and is working on the side of the marker to kill any survivors and create more necromorphs, which is why he created his little experiment. The Hunter. Notice how I used the word little when I should have used the word massive for this 9-foot monster. The Hunter is a unique necromorph because it can't die. Much like the Queen of England. Oh wait, yeah, she finally died. Can dismember it, but it'll just enter a sequence where it heals itself from the ground, regrows its limbs, and will start chasing you again. My game plan for the Hunter is the same as the normal one in the game. Just make it enter a regeneration phase and use my stasis on it to stun it for 15 seconds. During this time, you can make your escape. The only difference is I have to stomp his legs off, not shoot them off. Almost got killed by a group of swarmers. Fighting these things suck without guns. Made it back to the safe room for this level. There's still some stuff I have to do in the medical deck, and the Hunter will occasionally appear in rooms chasing me down. Whenever this happens, I'll try to slow it down as much as possible so I can continue. My stasis Kinesis is fully upgraded at this point. Knowing I was fighting the Hunter early on in the campaign, I focused on maxing that out first, so as long as I have a few stasis packs with me, I should be okay. Met Mercer again, he really wants me dead, and in the next room I met with an ambush, Hunter included. I'm stuck in here until I deal with all the necromorphs, so first thing I do is stun the Hunter before focusing on the others. It worked well, and it was left on the floor recovering while I was punching the arms off of some slashers. After a bit of fighting, I had to go back and stun it again before it got the chance to fully heal and start chasing me, and I did something pretty stupid here, stunning it while it's getting up. In games, usually during special animations, characters, enemies, or objects will be given what is known as iframes, which stands for invincibility frames. During those specific frames of that animation, the entity is immune to damage and or collision. The best example of this is the dodge in Dark Souls. It's why even though the player is currently being hit by the object, if you roll at the right time, you won't take damage because you're given iframes during those portions of the roll animations. In Dead Space, I found throughout my playthroughs that the enemies are given iframes when they're usually doing certain transitions, like right now. Even though the Hunter is fully healed up and has regrown all its limbs, it's given iframes while it gets up so the player can't interrupt its getting up animation. Normally not really a big deal because that would equate to like a second of time where the player can't damage it, but because I froze it during its iframes, the Hunter is invincible for the whole time I have it stunned, which is 15 seconds. 15 seconds of me stomping and having no effect. And because there's still a lurker in the room, I end up taking a bit of damage and get close to dying. Thankfully, I'm able to eventually stomp off its legs and finish the last necromorph while the Hunter is healing. Before exiting this room, I ran to the other side to heal up and regroup when the Hunter decided to leave, which kind of freaked me out because it made me think it was going to jump out of a random vent.
What?
And then I heard something being violently dismembered off screen before hearing the Hunter roar again as the music swelled. You could tell this freaked me out because of how serious my face gets. I look like a deer that heard a twig snap in the forest. Picked up a canister to instantly deal with another guardian. Again, having this happen here was an insane stroke of luck that saved me a lot of time. Mercer calls me, angry that I didn't die yet. He tries to kill me by venting out all the air in medical deck, so I gotta race back to the safe room to restore oxygen before I suffocate. A large group of swarmers are in my path, but it's here I learned I could freeze them and just run past unscathed. Super useful, because without a gun, I was basically guaranteed to take a ton of damage from these guys every time I encountered them. The Hunter spawns again here, but all I have to do is stun it and run past it, so I can easily get through this area without taking any damage. Completed the poison, but Mercer won't let me leave till I face him one more time. This is supposed to be like your first boss fight in the game, and it's with the Hunter. You're trapped in a small room and a few other necromorphs, and what seems like no way out. What you actually have to do is stun the Hunter while it's in the center of the room, then run over here to hit a button to cryogenically freeze it in a container. The first time you play this game, it's a great fight. It's very anxiety-inducing as the player takes a few minutes trying to desperately figure out how to actually get rid of an unkillable enemy, only to figure it out after a little bit of exploring. But after you do it once and know what to do, the fight is literally 5 seconds long. Mercer makes a speech, the Hunter spawns, I freeze it instantly, even had time to top off my stasis and then run to the next room, interacted with the computer, and got rid of the Hunter. Grabbed the power node from the wall behind me and headed to hydroponics.
Just to be clear, what is happening?
Met him in hydroponics. He is very sick right now and close to death. The situation is serious. He tells Isaac not to take off his helmet or else he'll be affected by the poison air, which brings up a weird plot point. Why is Isaac the only one with a suit on? At this point in the game, shouldn't every survivor be desperately trying to get a suit? Wouldn't it be easier for Hammond and Kendra to get suits on than it would be to force Isaac to do all that stuff in the last chapter and this chapter just to fix the air? Plus, then they would be protected from the vacuum of space and have some armor against the necromorphs, right? It'd be super useful. They're not hard to come by. They sell them at every store. And even if they weren't accessible to the other crew members because they aren't engineers like Isaac, couldn't Kendra, the computer hacker, override that and hack the stores to get some suits? Listen, I know it's not that serious a plot point, and I'm nitpicking right now. They probably chose to have the characters dressed like this solely for their aesthetics and character designs, but I've always found it weird that other characters in the series don't seem to need or want these suits, when they are obviously a key tool for survival. Like Ellie in Dead Space 2 and 3, she never dons one of these suits. In number 2, it makes sense that she wouldn't have access to it because she starts off as a civilian survivor, but in Dead Space 3, she's part of a special research team going into deep space to a place they know is affected by the marker, and no one on her team wears a suit. I wonder if there's a reason why they chose to not have Ellie wear a suit. Maybe there are 2 reasons. Anyways, back to the game. Hammond tells me some of the infected crew were turned into Weezers. No, they're not a necromorph variant that either puts out some of the best albums you ever heard or some of the worst. They're a necromorph variant that poisons the air. I have to find and kill them before confronting the Leviathan, the giant organic mass that's also poisoning the air. This level's split into 3 sections, an east and west tower, both with similar structures and each with 4 Weezers I have to kill. The last section contains the Leviathan and it won't open up until I kill all 8 Weezers. Between the east and west tower, one is pretty easy and the other is very hard. The west tower contains just normal necromorph types, so combat is easy, but the east tower has a guardian, a brute, and another drag tentacle. Knowing the west tower was going to be easier, I chose to do that one first. The greenhouses have a large group of enemies I have to deal with, but it wasn't too hard with all the stasis I had on me. Plus, there were some explosive canisters I could use. Killed my first 2 Weezers. They can't move or damage me, so I just gotta stomp on them to kill them. The third one's in a room with a bunch of dead bodies, and after killing it, some infectors spawn, but I got a few canisters I can use to obliterate them before they can get close to turning any of the bodies. On my way to the last Weezer on the west tower, I meet exploders for the first time. These enemies limp towards Isaac and when close enough swing their explosive sack at him, killing themselves and anything nearby. If I get hit by these, I might live, but I'll still take a lot of damage from it. In normal gameplay, you could just shoot the explosive sack when they're far enough away to detonate them without taking any damage, but I can't, so I gotta swing at them, making sure not to hit their sack and kill them before they get a chance to swing at me. If you are able to kill one without exploding their sack, you can then pick it up with kinesis and throw at the other enemies like it was an explosive canister. I was able to do that here, thank God. For the next 2 exploders, I baited one to starting the swing animation and then freezing it, giving me enough time to get the other exploder in close, freeze that one, and run away to a safe distance just as the first exploder finishes its swing, killing the second one and itself at the same time. Out of stasis and without enough time to refill it before the last exploder got close, I tried throwing random shit on the ground at it, but I ended up almost dead. Isaac clipped his hand through the slasher just so I could miss a stasis shot.
What the hell is that?
Redeemed myself, and then killed the last Weezer on the west tower. 4 down, 4 to go. On my way, I grabbed one of the canisters from the west tower's greenhouse to bring to the east tower so I could use it to kill the guardian. But as I was TKing it out of the area, it despawned while in my grasp. I didn't notice at first when this happened because I was looking forward at the acid spray I needed to dodge. I ran back to see maybe if I dropped it, but it wasn't there anymore. So I left to go sell my items at the store before returning to that area to use a bench, but on my way there, the canister reappeared in midair, as if I was still using kinesis on it. I quickly upgraded my max health again before picking up the canister and continuing to move towards the east tower. I got through the first set of doors, I set it down to open the second set of doors, but when I turned back to look for it on the ground, it was gone again. So for some reason, the canister is despawning, then randomly reloading at its last known position. I didn't really understand it then, and even after watching this footage a few times, I still don't. I tried running back and forth to respawn it, but I didn't have much luck. I'm assuming the game just deloaded the asset because I brought it to an area the game doesn't expect me to bring it to, but I'm also the same dumbass that spent 15 seconds trying to damage an invulnerable enemy, so what the fuck do I know? Without the canister, I decided to try to face the guardian. I did find a fire extinguisher, but that didn't do shit when I threw it. I guess now's the perfect time to explain just why these things are the worst. Guardians are immobile, wall-mounted necromorphs that guard a specific path. Obviously, they chose a name that was as literal as it possibly could be. It's always placed in a position that Isaac must run past to get to an objective. And if you try to run past or get in close before killing it, this happens.
No.
It will always kill you, no matter your health or the difficulty. The animation was a bit weird there because I got flung by explosive as I died, but if you get in close enough, a hidden tentacle emerges from the middle of it, popping Isaac's head like a balloon. To kill the guardian, the player must sever all 4 of its arms that the guardian will periodically reveal. When the player first encounters the guardian, it will release all its arms at once, allowing a quick instant kill if you have an explosive. That's how I killed both the guardians I saw in the medical deck. But because I don't have any here, I have to figure out a different way to kill them. The guardians also have the ability to spawn pods. These are small, immobile necromorphs shot out the stomach of a guardian. Once deployed, a single tentacle will emerge and will shoot projectiles at Isaac. Kinda like the lurker, but with 1 tentacle instead of 3, and it can't move. Not too big of a deal, they don't do that much damage, but the longer you fight a guardian, the more pods it will spawn. The more that are out, the more damage you'll take. If Isaac gets close to a pod, it will explode, killing itself, dealing damage, and sending Isaac flying. It's what happened here. Also in this clip, I tried using stasis on the guardian to see if it's possible to run past while it's slowed, but the stasis seemed to only affect its arms and not the body of the guardian, so it's still able to instant kill me when slowed. Alright, I can't melee or use stasis to pass it, so I need to figure out how I can kill this enemy at range without explosive canisters. Or I can spend 20 minutes trying to find more explosive canisters. I was pretty sure it wouldn't work, but hey, I might as well try. It's not like I got a life to waste anyways. Got a second canister from the greenhouse, but as expected, the canister disappeared once I got to this hallway. Ran away and came back, and then it respawned, but this time when I got past the first door, the original canister I brought with me spawned back in. So now I have 2 of them in the hallway with me. I thought maybe if I keep the camera on them the whole time, they won't disappear. But as the door opens, they cease to exist. I kept running away and coming back, hoping they would respawn, but they didn't. I even got myself killed a few times on purpose so the level would reload, hoping they would spawn back in, but they never did. I gave up for the night and started the next stream by buying some nodes to fully upgrade my kinesis. All I can do is add range to it, but kinesis is the only way I'm going to kill the Guardian, so any upgrades to it will help. However, there is one other weird thing I wanted to try first. When trying to get the canisters to load back in, I was running to different parts of the map, including the entrance of the level, and when you get to that area, you can actually hear the Guardian from the other side of the wall. So, like a true gamer who just came in second during a Fortnite tourney because of lag, I punched the wall. I also tried doing it from the elevator, which should be right next to the Guardian according to the in-game map. But why would this work? Why would Isaac have the ability to punch through walls? I was honestly just marveled at my stupidity and thinking this was a plan that had any hope of working, so I just wanted to show you guys just how dumb I could be. Back at the Guardian, there is one slasher that spawns in the room next to it, so I killed it and grabbed its blades to throw, but making shots is pretty hard because the pods are constantly attacking me, and if I get hit by one of them, I'll flinch. So I need to keep moving. Also, at this point, I didn't know the only way to kill the Guardian was to cut off its limbs, so for the first little bit, I kept throwing stuff at his chest. After using the slasher's blades, it was time to try my final plan. Just throw random shit at him. I have no idea if I could even damage enemies by throwing objects that aren't supposed to be used as projectiles, but I had to try. I switched to throwing these boxes. I did this for a while, just shooting the boxes and picking them back up. Every once in a while, I'd start attacking some of the pods and then continue shooting the Guardian, but I genuinely had no idea if shooting objects like this was doing any damage. Yeah, I was killing the pods, but they also explode on their own when you get close, so I wasn't always sure why they were dying. Eventually, I opened up a node lock door adjacent to the area the pods are spawning in and tested out the kinesis to truly see if it was doing damage. After a bit of box tossing, what I did to your mom last night, I ended up discovering that I could consistently kill the pods with 3 hits from random objects thrown by kinesis. So from this point on, I now have confirmation that I can do TK damage with any object. The problem is how much damage I'm actually doing, because these pods usually die in one shot from the weakest guns in this game, even on the hardest difficulties. And if it takes 3 hits with kinesis on easy to kill them, then I'm definitely not doing that much damage with each throw. Knowing any item can do damage if I threw it, I switched to tossing packs of ammo at it because I realized using smaller objects will let me be more precise with my aim. Although the boxes were hitting the Guardian, they would rarely hit its arms because they would impact with its chest first. Using denser objects means they'd be greater affected by gravity, so now, even at the short distance, I had to arc my shots. After a bit of throwing, I stasis the Guardian so its arms would stay still, making them easier to hit, but when I did, I also stasis a few packs of ammo on the ground next to it. When I picked up a frozen pack of ammo and threw it, let's try that again. When I picked up a frozen pack of ammo and threw it properly, it no longer had an arc. It shot straight, like a laser in any other month but June, making it super easy to hit the Guardian's arms. And on my second shot, I was able to remove its first arm. Now I know it's possible to kill it and how to do it. I just have to repeat this 3 more times and get it done before I run out of med packs. Spent the next few minutes cutting off 2 more arms, just 1 left to go. Out of med packs, and with 50% of my health left, it was a race against the clock to kill it. So I started spamming my stasis on everything so the Guardian wouldn't move and the pods wouldn't shoot. Its arms came out, I grabbed the frozen pack of pulse rifle ammo and started spamming the kinesis and shoot buttons to toss the ammo as fast as possible. And after shooting the ammo pack for the second time, I accidentally held down on my right mouse button and shot my pulse rifle, right as my cursor was directly over the arm. I did finally kill it, but I used my gun. I was devastated. I just wasted 30 minutes on this one life trying to kill it, only to screw up at the last possible second. But no way in hell am I taking a fail when I know I can do this without one. I stood there in shame and let the remaining pods kill me so I could respawn and try killing the Guardian one more time. I was pissed off at myself for being stupid, but I was still determined, so I came in hot like I put my sock in the microwave for 10 minutes before using it. I was removing limbs at such high speeds that not even an industrial Chinese steel mill could keep up with all the body parts I'm dismembering. On easy, it seems like just one good hit on an arm would cut it off. So after a few minutes, I was down to just 1 left. This one, however, seemed to be stronger. Well, I'm not actually sure. It's either this arm can take more hits than the others, or it's because this arm is fused into the corruption growing in the walls and its hitbox is obscured. So even though it looks like I'm hitting it, I might not be. Eventually, I was able to kill it when the arm moved slightly to a new position and I got a clear shot. And after an hour and a half of trying, I was pretty happy to finally kill it without getting another fail. Celebrated a bit, and spent a few minutes running around collecting all my thrown items before continuing with the level. I want to test out how effective tossing random objects is on a normal enemy like a slasher, and there's one waiting in the room next to me, so I let it grapple me, then punch it off before tossing stuff at it and killing it in 2 throws. Reloaded my save and repeated this 1 more time. Let it grapple me, punched it off, and it died in the same amount of throws, just 2. This proves to me that objects do a consistent amount of damage to enemies. This might be useless info, or it might come in handy later. Honestly, the nerd in me just wanted to test test it out because I was curious. There's still a lot left to do in this level. I still have to fight the brute, I still have to fight the second drag tentacle, and at the end, I have to kill the leviathan. The brute is up first, but like the last two I fought, it spawns by itself. So I just freeze and stomp on it till it's dead. Killed the first Weezer of the East Tower. 3 left now. The second one is hidden inside this weird piece of machinery. It's protected by glass, but if I activate the machinery and freeze it, I have a small window of time where I can shoot the Weezer. Well, I guess not shoot, more like throw, whatever, you know what I mean. I was scared that the Weezer was going to be coded differently than other enemies and therefore somehow immune to kinesis damage, but after a couple tosses, it died. Third one is upstairs. I stomped on it like I was an Italian plumber and it was a sentient mushroom. On my way to the fourth one, I have to walk through this hallway covered in fleshy growth. And if you look down the hallway, you can just make out the drag tentacle waiting at the end of it. Like the last one, after I pass a certain threshold, it will spawn. And also like the last one, there were explosive canisters nearby I could bring into the room. I tried shooting one at the idle tentacle, but nothing happened. I took out some items and started tossing those at the idle tentacle, but again, nothing. I triggered it and let myself be dragged so I can start grabbing anything I've already thrown and whipped it back at it like I did on the first tentacle. But like the first one, it doesn't seem possible to get the kill, and I died.
Five Nights at Freddy's. That's where I wanna be. Five Nights at...
Still, I was very hopeful, because unlike the last one, I could actually see and have a clear shot of the tentacle before it grabs me. So if I can figure out how to kill it before it's triggered, I should be able to avoid a fail. Next life, I tried shooting the canisters at the idle tentacle, but it wasn't having any effect. Like 5 direct shots, but nothing happened. That's when I started to notice something weird about the end of the hallway. I tried shooting my stasis at it, but it didn't land, and the stasis seemed to have hit something midair. And after tossing some more items down the hallway, I could clearly see what was happening. There's an invisible wall. The devs must have coded in an invisible barrier between Isaac and the tentacle near the end of the hall so the player can't preemptively kill it. Similar to the problem I had at the end of my Days Gone video. I even tried shooting it to double check, and you can see that the impact of my shots all seem to be hitting the same position in the hallway. Like they're all hitting a wall that isn't there. So what I thought was my one chance to kill a tentacle without shooting is now not an option. I spent a few lives trying to kill it by tossing items at it while being dragged, but this tentacle seems to be the same as the first, and with no other options, after a good 40 minutes of trying, I shot the tentacle, getting my second fail of the run. The good news is, at this point in the run, it seems like only special enemies are giving me issues. Bad news is, I have to fight a third tentacle in chapter 10, and I'm about to fight a massive special enemy that has 3 similar tentacles. Found and killed the final Weezer, and headed back to the control room hydroponics. Got the final upgrade on my rig, giving Isaac the maximum amount of hit points. And with that, my rig, kinesis, and stasis are all maxed out. I spent all of chapter 5 running around, hiding from the hunter so I could build this poison, only for it to not really do anything. It doesn't kill the Leviathan, so I have to go into food storage and finish it off myself. It's not going to be easy. I have to fight and kill this giant wall monster with a prolapsed anus in the middle, all without shooting. This fight is unique because it takes place in a cylinder room without gravity, so I can jump to safety as a dodge for incoming attacks and maneuver in 360 degrees. The Leviathan has 3 tentacles I gotta break off, and to do that, I have to hit their yellow weak spots. I tried running up and meleeing it, but there's a wall that doesn't let you pass the fleshy parts of the ground here. So I did what I did with the Guardian, and like a chimp at the zoo, I started tossing shit at it. Luckily, this room has a bunch of explosive canisters you can use, and the Leviathan was reacting to each hit that landed, giving me an indication that these were actually doing damage this time. So glad the game decided I can actually use the weapons as intended for this enemy. 5 throws later, and I cut off the first tentacle. I was out of canisters though, so I had to switch to tossing random items again. There was good news and bad news with this. The good news is that in 0G environments, anything thrown by kinesis will launch straight forward with no arc. The items are not being affected by gravity, because there is no gravity. So making shots is way easier. The bad news is I had to get real close to the tentacle's base to get a good shot, which meant less time to react to its attacks, resulting in me taking a lot of damage. I did this for a bit, and after killing the second tentacle, I discovered a pattern that made this so much easier. Once a tentacle dies, the remaining ones can move freely between its now empty, flesh hole. And the tentacles can only attack me if I'm within its horizontal range. Okay, so the tentacle can only hit me if I'm within its range, and it's possible to get out of range, but then it'll just move to an empty flesh hole where I'm back in its range and start its attack. While moving around, I discovered that the ranges of the tentacle's attacks do not overlap. They are just adjacent to each other, meaning I can stand right in the edge of one of the tentacle's attack range, and then with one step, get out of range, avoiding all damage. Now, if I move out of range before the tentacle reveals its weak spot, then if there's only one tentacle remaining, it will move to a new flesh hold, or if there's multiple remaining, the tentacles whose range I'm within will start its attack animation. But if I wait until a tentacle reveals its weak spot, it's now locked into its attack animation. And if I'm on the edge of its range, I can quickly take one step out of the way, completely dodge dodging its attack, avoiding all damage, and basically be guaranteed a hit on its weak spot. Yeah, I know, that's like word vomit of me explaining what I did here, but I wanted to mention it because discovering this on my first attempt saved me so much time and made fighting this thing way more efficient. Plus, you're already like an hour in the video. You're obviously interested in how I did all of this. You're not just watching this out of pity or something, right? Right? Killed the last tentacle and entered the second phase of the boss fight. The prolapse anus opens up and starts hurling these explosive sacks at me. You need to damage the hole they're coming out of, but you can pick them up as they're being launched towards you and throw them back into the hole. Should be pretty easy to do. Unfortunately, while spamming my kinesis, I accidentally shot again.
Oh fuck, I shot.
So, like I did with the Guardian, I let it kill me before restarting the fight. Restarting sucked, but because I discovered how the tentacle section worked last life, doing it a second time was super easy. I found out that it takes like 6 hits with a normal item to cut off the tentacle, and after a few minutes I was onto the second stage, all without getting hit once. Okay, well, almost. To make sure I didn't fuck up the next section again, I quickly emptied all of my ammo so I couldn't accidentally shoot, and that allowed me to spam kinesis while throwing the sacks. Finished the second stage within a few seconds. The last stage is a mix of the first two. The tentacles respawn, and its anus opens back up. I just need to damage the middle again, and because I learned how to dodge the tentacles, it was super easy to avoid getting hit while tossing the sacks back at the Leviathan. After 3 direct hits, it was dead. I killed this giant boss, it's literally called the Leviathan, on my second try without guns. I was very happy I got this done because I was like certain I was gonna get a fail here. Kendra calls me to let me know the oxygen levels are returning to normal and what my next task is. I need to head to the mining deck to send out an SOS beacon.
And remember, like and subscribe. Or else.
The miner deck. Oh, sorry, the mining deck. Miner deck is where Colleen Ballinger picks up her boyfriends. The mining deck is split into multiple floors, all connected with an elevator shaft. Isaac has to go to each floor, doing an objective on each one so he can prep and launch the SOS beacon. Knowing there was the next suit upgrade on the bottom floor, I chose to do that objective first. Got on the elevator and slashers started dropping down on me like they were Ezio and I was the Pope. It's a very claustrophobic environment to have this fight, but my specialty at this point is getting in close and beating up anything that moves. It's like I'm Conor McGregor and they're a woman or innocent person that didn't really deserve it. It got pretty crazy, but with stasis I was able to kill everyone just enough time to get freaked out by the hunter. It's waiting for Isaac on the 3rd floor. I guess Dr. Mercer unfroze it. I played through this game 3 times now and that's the first time I noticed that, so I was freaked out. Thankfully it's just an Easter egg and it doesn't fight Isaac again. Well, in this chapter at least. To get to the beacon I have to cross this gap, and once the conveyor, pods and lurkers start spawning. There are a few explosive canisters I can use on them, but I chose to save them and bring as many as I could with me to the next section. To avoid damage I kept moving on the conveyor, pretending I was learning how to waltz. At the end of the ride, Nicole reveals herself. Somehow, this nurse with no weapons or protective suit has survived the outbreak and just happens to be here. Seems weirdly convenient, huh? And it gets even more convenient. I can't actually get to her because she's on the other side of that gap, which is also where the control panel is for a locked door. So my nurse girlfriend somehow becomes a hacker and I gotta protect her as necromorphs drop down from the vents. Obviously a hard section without guns, but I did stockpile a few canisters from the conveyor area. For the first few guys that spawned, I used some random objects on the ground. I wanted to save my explosives for a last resort, but unfortunately I fucked it up again. One of the slashers spawned near me, and as I was punching it, I set off all the explosives behind me, getting rid of my whole supply of firepower. And while I was recovering, Nicole started to get attacked, so flustered, I started spam throwing shit, and guess what happened?
God fucking damn it.
Yeah, I accidentally shot again. 3rd fucking time I've done this now. I let the slashers kill Nicole so I could restart the section. This time I hit all the explosives in the corner so they wouldn't get set off. Honestly, I didn't use the canisters as much as I should have. I thought the section was longer, but there aren't that many necromorphs that spawn, so I got it done by mainly tossing items at enemies. Nicole finishes opening the door and then says she can't find a way over, but this will all be over soon. She walks off screen and you don't see her again for the rest of the chapter. I guess Isaac just gave up on his original goal of finding Nicole because he doesn't seem to care. Well, okay, maybe he does. Let's go back and hear what his reaction was to seeing his girlfriend who he's been desperately trying to reach for the last 5 hours.
Isaac, is that really you?
No thoughts. Head empty.
In the now unlocked room, I found the SOS beacon and the level 4 suit schematic. Headed back down the conveyor and did the same thing as before and just moved around to dodge the attacks. Before continuing with the objectives, I head back to the safe room to buy a new suit and to buy the contact beam. I don't need the weapon, I don't plan to use it, but the contact beam needs to charge before being fired, which means I can't accidentally shoot when spamming my kinesis. I'm obviously too stupid to be trusted to not do that with the pulse rifle, so this is probably the best way to stop that from happening. I still need to carry the pulse rifle with me though, just in case I have to use that wall moose glitch for a skip. With everything in my rig upgraded to the max, I started spending whatever nodes I found on upgrading my pulse rifle. I can't sell them, so I might as well, and if I do have to use a gun at some point, then I'll be stronger. For the next floor, the only real challenge is this last room. You have to throw out some rocks. After finishing it up and turning the gravity back on, I now have to get to the other side of the room as it starts to fill with a horde of necromorphs, including a few exploders, which are really hard to deal with without guns. Missed my first stasis shot because I stuck. Frozen exploder to run past, but I was unable to get around it. Thankfully, there was a second helpful exploder who came up from behind and gave me such a massive back shot, it boosted me forward. I got to the next room and grabbed the keycard I needed and thought the necromorphs would stop chasing me once the door closed, but they didn't and started to pop out of the vents. So I ran to the hallway where I thought they wouldn't keep following me, but again, they did, so I was a little nervous. Then I saw an exploder drop down into the tiny hallway with us, and I got a lot nervous. I ran as fast as I could to the elevator. Now the last floor I need to go to for this chapter, I have to do two things. Attach the beacon to a giant chunk of rock and release its gravity tethers, and then I gotta go to the control booth and launch the beacon into space so someone out there can find and rescue us. Now looting this area, I purposely didn't break one of these loot boxes because I knew it hit a few swarmers, and if I saved them for a later part of this chapter, I could do a speedrunning trick with the swarmers and skip a quarantine lockdown. Grabbed the battery I needed and started to leave when some exploders spawned. I started throwing the battery at their sacks hoping to detonate them before they got close. It was honestly going well till this one time where the battery flew to the right and then Isaac's kinesis glitched out and grabbed something underneath the floor. So I got hit by the exploder and then hit by the second one right as I got up. And the swarmer box broke in the explosion, so not only did I get attacked by them too, but I also lost the ability to do that speedrunning trick later on. Cool. At the giant rock, I encounter a giant problem. There are 4 of these things. They're gravity tethers, and I have to break all of them so the rock can be set free. Doing it on a normal run, you would freeze the blue wheel and shoot the light when it's exposed, but I can't shoot. So of course I try using items, but it doesn't seem to work. Tried chameleon, but that doesn't work either. The only other thing I thought might work was getting the lurkers to shoot the blue light for me. So I went outside to the second 2 tethers, froze the wheel, and stood in front of it as the lurker shot towards me, but again, that didn't work. So I killed myself. I wanted to reload the room and try everything one more time just in case, but nothing changed. And with no other options, I got 4 more fails here, 1 for each tether, bringing my total fail count to 6. Got back to the control room, ejected the rock into space, and had to fight through quarantine I could have skipped. It's not even that bad, it's just 4 slashers. Honestly, it just would have been cool to do the skip, okay? What you do is bring the swarm box up to the room, open the door, spawn and stun the swarmers while they're in the door, and because of this, the quarantine won't be able to lock you in as the door won't close while there's enemies in between it.
Before leaving the chapter, I encountered these things, just like limbs walking around and attacking Isaac. Apparently they don't even have a name for them because they're part of a special necromorph I haven't seen yet, so I'm just gonna call them Planned Parenthood trimmings, because much like a fetus, they are a unique organism, but also kind of not, and I'm also personally okay with killing them. These guys are more annoying than anything else. Usually you just ignore them and run past. I only bothered killing them because I want to use the store.
I hate it when coat hangers get all tangled up and you can't use them, so we're keeping the baby!
With the beacon sent out, we now need to fix the ship's comms so we can communicate with any ship that contacts us, and by we fix, I of course mean just Isaac gets ordered to do it on his own. This is the second chapter where I return to a deck of the ship I was previously at, with the first being the medical deck in chapter 5, and now I'm returning to the bridge in chapter 8. I think the devs choosing to reuse decks of the ship was a really great decision, both narratively and from a production standpoint. Reusing maps lets the game save space on assets and helps extend the game's runtime, but the way they do it narratively just works so well. First, it makes sense that Isaac is returning to these places because everywhere he goes is of importance while trying to fix the dying ship. It makes sense that he reaches the bridge more than once. It's the bridge of the ship. Second, they also add new areas to the map the second time around. They don't actually spawn new locations, but rather doors that were locked on your first walkthrough are now open. This helps to make these chapters entertaining because you still get to explore new areas of the ship even though you've already been to this deck in a previous chapter. And finally, my favorite part, the infection. The necromorphs are continuously growing in numbers, with larger masses and new enemies appearing as you go further in the game. So when you return to an area, you get to see how this area changed, becoming more corrupted and destroyed. I think it's awesome because it helps make the growth of the necromorph infection seem incredibly real and threatening while also insinuating a passage of time. Like within the 4 chapters between the first and second visits to the bridge, it feels like a few hours of in-game time has passed by, during which the infection grew more and did things like completely overgrow this basement elevator shaft that was once usable. It breathes life into the creeping death that is the necromorph infection, giving the player a desperate sense of urgency. How much longer does this ship really have? I don't know, man. It's cool. I just like the way it works so well. Tried to get to the elevator, but before I could, a quarantine starts. A bunch of exploders spawn. Got the first 3 killed when I baited one to swinging before freezing it, killing all that were nearby when it finished its attack. Wow, very cool. Tried doing the same thing on the next few exploders, but was less successful. A lot less successful. A few slashers and leapers spawn in, and while getting my ass kicked by them, I realized I was about to run out of stasis, so I ran away. I do have stasis packs, but unlike med packs, there's no hotkey to auto use a stasis pack. To use
choose one, I gotta open up my inventory, find a pack, and select it. But if I get hit while doing this, Isaac will close his inventory. Therefore, whenever I got low in stasis, I had to make a plan to run away so I can refill it without being interrupted. It's important I do this because, let's be real, without stasis, I can't really fight anything. Up top, there's 2 guardians in my path. Great! Luckily, they are in different angles within this L-shaped hallway, so I can fight the first one without getting hit by the second one, but the second one is still aware of me. So the whole time I'm fighting the first guardian, the second one will be spawning pods. Just like in chapter 6, I start lobbing items at its arms. It takes a bit of time to kill it because the pods would keep making me flinch while lining up shots. I did end up killing the first one after about 5 minutes. Not too bad, but because I was out in the open the whole time, I lost a fair amount of health from the pods, so I only have a handful of med packs left now. The second guardian had already birthed a bunch of pods, so I spent some time cleaning them out. I mean, you know what they say, women and children first. That includes when it comes to killing. Always kill the kids and women first. The second one was a lot harder than the first. There were just so many pods on the ground that it was impossible to get shots in uninterrupted, and after a while, my items started to get scattered to parts of the room that required me to go right into the open to pick them up again, resulting in me taking even more damage. This one corner was definitely a godsend. Without this little bit of cover, I would have died 5 minutes ago. Almost died here and had to use another large med pack. I only have 2 heals left. Got the second last arm off, and thankfully I had a lucky shot just a few moments later and took off its last arm, killing it. I may know how to kill these things now, but that doesn't mean it won't take an absurd amount of time and resources. Met another survivor, but like the others, it's only to see him die. He was killed by the new special enemy I mentioned last chapter, the Divider. They made this necromorph make like whale sounds, which is definitely scary, but also makes me expect an enemy that isn't tall and lanky like a zombified Luigi. It makes me expect an enemy that's fat and round like a zombified Wario. The Divider lives up to its name as its special ability comes after you deal some damage. While in its normal form, it's kinda just like a slasher, a humanoid zombie, but once you deal enough damage, it breaks apart into those Planned Parenthood trimmings I saw last chapter. Overall, it's still a pretty easy enemy to defeat. It's a bit hard to keep track of everything once they break apart, but stasising the moving limbs makes them easy to kill. Look at this swing. What a great hit. That's gotta be a home run. Home run! Fixing the comms is a quick puzzle, just had to kill a few Libras at the start of it and I was good. Once the comms were fixed, we received a delayed message from another ship, the USM Valor. They responded to our SOS, but they also picked up our escape pod, the one Hammond sent out. Remember I made sarcastic jokes about it being stupid to send out an escape pod that has a zombie in it? Yeah. Kendra tries to warn the Valor, but some giant mass on the side of the ship is blocking the signal. She tells me to get on the nearby ADS cannon to kill it, which begins the second and final turn section of the game. Like before, this isn't skippable, but doesn't count as a fail because it's not a personal weapon. The giant necromorph, dubbed the Slug, is easy to kill. Just gotta shoot its 5 weak spots while also shooting any incoming debris. After killing the Slug, Kendra contacts the Valor immediately so she can warn them not to open the escape pod, but it's too late, and we watch the last of their crew get murdered. Just as the video ends, the unpiloted Valor comes into frame. Without anyone steering the ship, there's no way to avoid a collision. When Isaac wakes up, Hammond contacts him. Someone was blocking his signal. He couldn't talk to the others even though he's been trying to since chapter 6. Thankfully, the crash interrupted that signal block. He finally decides to abort the mission. Only took him 5 hours of watching everyone die to make this call. This was supposed to be a maintenance mission. Why the fuck would us 3 janitors keep hanging around as long as we did? We should have been looking for a way out or use those escape pods long ago. Whatever, now the plan is to find a way off the ship. Hammond located a shuttle and crew quarters, but it's missing a singularity core. Thankfully, the Valor should have one we can scavenge. He tells me to meet him in the cargo bay where we can enter the crashed ship. Leaving the chapter, I had to find another Divider and one pregnant, but both are easy. Hit up another store to buy a bunch of stasis and med packs. Those 2 guardians really depleted my supplies. But I also have a ridiculous amount of credits at this point, so as long as I can get to the store, I should be able to completely refill my inventory every time. Arriving at the cargo bay, Hammond calls to tell me that the Valor ship is full of Marines. It's a Marine land, if you will. So this wasn't some random ship, they were on a hunting mission. Probably for us, or the Ishimura, because we're the only things out here. But who contracted them, and why? Before he can tell me more, Kendra tells me his signal cut out. So weird that Kendra, the computer hacker, never gets her signal cut, but Hammond always does? It looks like they neutered Shrek and stored the remains in cargo bay, and I can't make it onto the Valor till I toss these into space. This puzzle, like most of the puzzles in the Dead Space series, only requires you to use kinesis. Stasis is used pretty often in puzzles too, but the one thing that is rarely required for puzzles is shooting. Even in this one, where I still have to break the fuses to open up the airlock, I can just melee. The fact that you are rarely required to shoot for puzzles is one of the reasons why my fail counter is as low as it is. Once inside the ship, I get a glimpse of the new enemy type before it runs off. Don't worry, I'll explain them more in a minute, but first I gotta talk about this. So in between this stream and the last one, I turned up the difficulty from easy to medium. At this point, I kind of felt like the challenge was well, too easy. But I forgot to get footage of me doing that, so to prove that I actually did change the difficulty, you can see in the footage here I'm overriding my old save that says easy with a new file that says medium. This is going to make fighting a lot harder. Enemies aren't going to die in just 3 swings, and I'm going to take a lot more damage. Opened up a door and saw the aftermath of the escape pod. Yeah, all those soldiers in full military gear, which by the way is canonically stronger than Isaac's gear, all got murked by one slasher. But somehow Isaac, an engineer, can kill more necromorphs single-handedly than a fully decked out futuristic army. Also, why did they even open the escape pod? Like, them picking it up makes sense. They see a recently ejected escape pod with a life form in it and assume it's a human in distress, but once they brought in the ship, they would have seen the disgusting monster inside, and obviously you would choose not to open it at that point, right?
So, that escape pod we picked up clearly has like an alien in it. What do you want to do? Alien? Huh. Does it look dangerous? Yeah, it's got like knives coming out of its back or something. It looks pretty scary. Knives out of its back. You know what, just open it up. Okay, sure. Wait, do you have your gun on you? I do, but it's not loaded. Is that okay? Honestly, bullets are kind of what makes guns dangerous, so it's probably better that it's not loaded, yeah. Oh, it's better. Okay, yeah, sure.
Well, maybe they didn't open it up, and the necromorph actually broke out and escaped. Did you ever think about that, Chris? Okay, first things first, bullshit. Your opinions are dumb. I hate you. Never speak in public again, you filthy cockroach. How the fuck did the slasher escape from the pod when it couldn't do that while it was on the Ishmir or in space? This one error in the narrative has made this game about space zombies completely unrealistic. I'm just joking, it's a stupid little nitpick, who cares? The idea of exploring a recently infected ship with reanimated Marines is freaking cool, and I'm excited to do it. Ham calls me to let me know that the necromorphs on the ship are different. The infection is merging with the stasis units on the Marine suits, creating really, really fast enemies. Twitchers. No, that's not the new name for Twitch streamers, it's what these necromorphs are called because of their fast speed and Twitch-like movement. They are very fast, they close distance super quick and can do a good amount of damage. Plus, I'm playing on medium now, so it's going to take a lot longer to kill enemies. The Twitchers all got this weird face that kind of makes them look like a stone statue. They also have the same brain capacity of the average Twitch streamer. Oh, speaking of, if you ever want to watch me record these challenges live, follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/crispy645. Unless it's the future now, where the definitely not a money laundering front for a crypto gambling site Kick is the new Twitch. Then follow me on there, I guess. That's how poorly they run Twitch, it's probably gonna end up happening. On my way to the ship's engine, Dr. Kine contacts me. He's the guy that did this to the captain. He explains that even if Isaac can fix the shuttle, running away won't stop the outbreak. They must return the marker to the colony, back to its rightful place where they found it. Now this guy, who sounds and looks a lot like John Lithgow, but isn't, is obviously crazy. I mean, everybody on the ship is crazy because of the marker, and he's no different, so why listen to him? He could be like the other guy, Dr. Mercer, and be working for the marker. I wouldn't trust him, and Isaac kind of just ignores his request because why would he listen to him? Found a half-alive Marine being pinned to the ceiling. Sounds like someone's getting the best head of their life, huh? Yeah, but he's actually in immense pain and slowly dying, so.
He seems in pain, but his rig is blue, so he's obviously fine.
When I opened this door, Divider started advancing me, so I stepped in the room hoping to lure it to the hallway for an easier kill, but it was too tall for the door, and couldn't get through it. Some exploders popped up behind it, and the Divider that was trying to run back into the room blocked them from being able to attack me. This gave me the perfect opportunity to attack the Divider without taking damage, but unfortunately punching the door was a little glitchy, and eventually one of the exploders decided to attack me after standing still for like a full minute. The exploders killed themselves, and also did a good amount of damage to the Divider, but playing on medium now meant that killing it was going to take a lot longer. Enemies like the Divider, Brutes, the Hunter, Guardians, and bosses will all have a lot more health and require a lot more patience. Or, like in this case, I get lucky and another pair of exploders kamikaze the Divider for me. I found an audio log where the commander of the Valor wasn't being very woke.
Hostiles are alien, repeat, alien, and extremely dangerous.
It's like, I don't know, I just think it's like a little racist and personal to assume the enemies are alien and hostile. It's just me, but saying that, but what I know. Yeah, saying aliens are hostile and extremely dangerous is pretty racist. For once, I agree with past Chris. There's actually a little minigame you can do in this room, and I highly recommend doing it because it gives you good loot. It's a shooting gallery minigame. You get unlimited ammo so you don't waste anything, and you just gotta shoot the red guys when they pop up and make sure not to shoot the blue ones.
Wow, again, my god, these Marines are like pretty freaking racist, guys. Oh yeah, shoot the red ones on sight and you will be rewarded. Gross. I am not going to be participating in this racist minigame. Not like a moral protest. It would be, but you get loot out of it, and I'm a greedy whore, so I would happily kill an unarmed red person for the loot. The real reason I'm not doing this is because it would obviously count as a fail.
Shouldn't have skipped the leg day route.
Watch a Twitcher get laser eye surgery. Fun fact, it's actually not that painful. I would know I just got it done, hence the massive break in my upload, but I did get these sick baller ass sunglasses. Oh yeah. Anyways, in the other side of the room, I pick up the schematic for large med packs. Super useful as large med packs refill 100% of your health. They are pretty pricey though, 10,000 credits to buy one. I fought some more exploders, but was able to remove their sacks this time, so I didn't have to worry about getting hit by them. Except on the second group where, yeah, I did remove their sacks, but I decided to shoot the explosives directly in front of me. I'm almost done the chapter, but I still need to go through 2 main rooms. The engine room with the ship part I need, and to get to the engine room, I gotta go through the barracks. It's a huge room, and it has one of the last quarantine sections of the game. On top of playing on a harder difficulty now, making it more difficult, there are a lot of enemies here and hazards in the room. Killed the first few, and after being grappled by a lurker, I had just enough time to refill my stasis before Twitcher closed in. Ran down to the other side of the hall, started beating up the Twitcher, killing it as an exploder got close. But before I could freeze it, another lurker grappled me. And then immediately after, a second grappled me. Yeah, the other enemies won't attack me while I'm getting grappled, so I don't have to worry about that, but while I'm fighting off these lurkers, every other enemy in the room will now move in closer. I had to book it the second I finished punting the lurker so I wouldn't get hit by the nearby exploder, but as soon as I was finished and I started running, a Twitcher attacked me, causing me to stagger. With my health as low as it was, I knew this was the end. I could see and hear the nearby exploder wind up his swing, but somehow it didn't do any damage to me. I don't know why, I'm just really grateful because that would have been a killing blow. It also took out a few enemies with it, so that helps too. I healed up and just a few enemies were left. Killed them and all that was left was the one exploder. And I said fuck it and just let it explode so it'd die quicker. After finishing the lockdown, I started looting the barracks when I found this text log that states the USM Valor was sent here to retrieve the marker and that they knew of the infection and how lethal it was. They were prepared for this, but still the whole ship of trained Marines was bested by one slasher. I saw the guy getting sucked off again. Nice. Made it to the engine room. I gotta do this puzzle to get to the other end of the room without dying. It's very easy, but I still managed to die in the process. With the singularity core removed, the Valor starts falling apart, so I have to book it off the ship. And on the way out of the engine room, I meet up with Hammond. He was looking for me the whole time, but his comms went out and he couldn't contact me. Before we could reunite, and before I could embrace him in my arms on the other side of the glass, an enhanced brute spawns. I mean, Hammond's got this, right? He survived this long. Oh no. Maybe it's okay. He can get up. He can still get up and fight, right? No. Oh, never mind. Yeah, he can't really get up without his leg there. Yeah. Well, okay. Hammond's dead. He'd probably still be alive if he'd decide to let us leave the Inchwinger immediately instead of trying to salvage it, but too late for that now. The enhanced brute fight is easy. Even though this brute is stronger than a normal one, and even though now this is on medium, brutes are just an easy fight because it's one enemy. It did take 5 minutes of constant beating and stomping to kill it, but I got through it and got a diamond semiconductor, which is worth 25 Gs. Kendra calls me, she just says she lost Hyman's vitals and asks if he's dead. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's dead. I tried resuscitating him, but all that did was remove his beautiful bald head from his shoulders. Exited the Valor as it started to implode and killed one last Twitcher in the cargo bay before ending the chapter. I guess that one Twitcher being on the outside of the ship means some of them escaped the Valor and are now loose on the Ishimura.
I can speak Korean. Did you say
slut?
As soon as I get to crew quarters, Kendra calls me to tell me I need to go around finding parts to fix the shuttle. Even now, with my boss dead and us not trying to do maintenance anymore, I'm still running around like a little janitor. The crew quarters is very freaky. You walk in and the first thing you see are bodies with their faces covered in a single penetrative wound to each skull, like it was some sort of ritualistic killing by a serial killer. And with bodies everywhere, that means there's going to be a lot of necromorphs. Dr. Kane locked me out of the area area the shuttle's stored in. Even though Isaac just listened to this dementia-ridden scientist call out to his dead wife, with him in control of the shuttle, it looks like we'll have to work with him to leave this place alive. Before he can give me access to the ship, he needs me to find the missing parts Kendra mentioned earlier. This chapter's first objective is a little asymmetrical. There are 3 parts you need, and Isaac can go to any of the 3 locations to get them in any order. And knowing that in one of these areas is the next and final suit schematic, I went there first so I can equip it as soon as possible. Got scared by a vent and wasted a stasis shot. Nice. Grab the suit schematic, and in the next room grab the first nav card that's in the middle of the Z-Ball core. Although Z-Ball sounds like a GameCube title from 2006 where you play basketball as a team of cartoon zombies, it's not. It's actually just another Dead Space minigame. After getting rid of the few lurkers in the area, I could start shooting some hoops. Or, I guess, throwing some hoops, and they're not really hoops, kind of just holes. Unlike the other minigame, I can actually play this one, and it gives you some great loot, including a ruby semiconductor and a power node. To play Z-Ball, the player must grab their blue balls and throw it into the nearest open hole. That's what she said. Every time a new ball spawns, 3 platforms will light up. If the player steps on these platforms, they increase their multiplier that affects the points for that ball. Just have to shoot into the hole before the shot clock runs out. And after the game timer is done, or if the player walks to the exit, the round finishes. And if the player scored enough points, a loot locker opens up. Do this 6 times, you can open up all the lockers, getting a sweet cache of loot. Now this took me like 15 minutes to get all 6 unlocks, but that's because I'm stupid. I assumed you need a larger score with each progressing level to unlock the prize. You know, like in level 1 you need 10 points, in level 2 15, and in level 6 you might need 50. But you don't. As long as you get 15 points, you beat the level for every level. And if you jump to all 3 multipliers for each shot, you get 8 points. So within 2 throws, you can beat every level. Maybe taking like 5 minutes to do so, probably less. So me scoring 40 points on level 4 was way too much and unnecessary. I also didn't have to get stressed out when the ball got stuck in the net during level 6 because I had 50 points already. Back in the common area of the crew quarters, I had to quickly kill an infector before it started reanimating everybody in the room. I was actually very worried about this. I could have easily lost control and gone overwhelmed by a horde of enhanced slashers. Without any range weapons, killing these guys is a bit hard because I just kind of have to rush them and ignore everyone else. Just had enough credits for the last suit upgrade, and with that, I'm now free to spend all my money on stasis and med packs. Oh, okay, great. Dr. Mercer is still alive. And he's got some friends too. Oh. Never mind. I don't think they were friends because that's not something a friend would do. At least a good one. Fun fact, the people he just killed are Elizabeth and Jacob Cross, a couple whose survival from the infection can be discovered through audio logs in the game. Jacob actually spends a lot of his time trying to fix some of the same issues with the ship that Isaac does, and Elizabeth is the scientist who first found the Leviathan. Their character arcs mirror Isaac's, who's also searching for his partner. They spent the whole time trying to find each other, and it looks like they finally did, just probably not the way they wanted. Let's hope Isaac's reunion with Nicole doesn't go this horrible. Had to grab a keycard down there. There are 2 dividers, but I just stasis them and ran past. Well, kind of power walked a bit here too, I guess. Whenever you walk in the corruption, the fleshy growth on the ground, it greatly reduces Isaac's speed. I guess walking in a pile of human goo isn't that easy. To get to the first cabin area, I have to get past this guardian. I fought a few of these at this point, so it shouldn't have been this hard, but it was, because I'm now playing on medium. Before, it looked like just 1 good shot on a guardian arm would remove it, but on medium, it takes about 3. So to kill them, it went from 4 successful shots to 12. The pods also do a bit more damage now, so I'm losing more health than before. While fighting the Guardian, an enhanced slasher spawned, but it was right as I used my last stasis shot. I tried running to the end of the room to refill it, but with the pod shooting at me, I couldn't get it without being interrupted. So I ran to the previous room I was in so the pods didn't have a shot and started beating on the slasher old school with no stasis. This is how we do it on the streets, boy. It was not great. I lost a great amount of health here, but I did get some slasher blades to shoot at the Guardian, so not all bad. Or it wouldn't have been all bad if I was able to hit one of these shots. God damn it. I was taking a lot of damage here. You gotta understand, I'm at max health and armor, but it takes so long to kill it that I ended up using 4 large med packs. And after finishing off the pods, I had to use my last med pack. It's not an issue of if I can kill the Guardians. I know I can. I figured out how to do that in chapter 7. Playing on medium, it's an issue of if I'll have enough health on me to make it through the fight with them. It was too risky to go on without health, so I doubled back to the store to stock up on some. Downstairs, it's time to fight the final drag tentacle. I tried a few times. It's the same as the other one. Didn't matter what I did, I have to shoot it to kill it, and I got another fail. The rest of the section is pretty easy. No life support, I need to keep topping off my oxygen every minute or so, but in the process of upgrading my rig, I increased my max air capacity, making the fights in here a lot less stressful. Grabbed the second nav card and ran back to the commons. Got jump scared by this exploder, but it's a scripted event just to scare the player. Well, it comes out a different vent in the next room, but it's one guy, so I just froze it and ran to the safe room where it can't touch me. The last nav card is in the other crew bunk section, so I make my way there. You have to do this puzzle to move the bunks out of the way, but it's easy to get to the other end of the room. Heard a woman laughing. Maybe it's another survivor, one that's not crazy. Hopefully she can help us get off the ship. She's got the brain worms, doesn't she? Oh, well, Not anymore. Looks like she won't be helping us get off this ship. It's all good though, the nav card is right beside her anyways. Was about to pick it up when I saw this weird like visual bug. Whenever the nav card pickup window appears, for some reason I could see the screen in the next room. Weird. Picked up the card, and as I did, Dr. Mercer calls me. Says there's no escape for me this time and that his creature has been freed. So that means another hunter section. I was way more worried about this fight with the hunter than the ones in chapter 5. Even though I've maxed out gear, I'm now playing on medium. This is a pretty intense section. To get out of the room, you have to do the reverse of what you did to first get into it and move all the bunks while the hunter is right on your tail. Mercer locks the door of the elevator, so you have to fend off the hunter and some other necromorphs while Kendra hacks it open. Hunter spawned right on top of me, but I was able to stun it and stomp it before I got any hits in. After it was on the ground, I just had to make sure I kept it stunned and worked on killing the other enemies in between, mainly focusing on the slashers. Once Kendra opened the door, I froze any remaining enemies and ran out. Now I thought it was safe, because in this game when you hear dialogue from other characters, it usually means you entered an area enemies can't get you. But that clearly didn't happen here, although they can't follow me in the elevator, so it was fine. Found Dr. Kind talking to his dead wife again, so you know he's gotta be super trustful. The shock point drive on the shuttle is destroyed, so we can't really escape the area even if we get the shuttle spaceworthy. But Dr. Kind claims his dead wife knows how to stop the infection. He mentions something the colony found at the core of the planet and shows me a video of what appears to be a giant evil worm thingy. I think it's the same Brazilian worm that crawls up your urethra. Probably gonna be the final boss of the game. He says that's called the hive mind, and it's what's controlling these creatures telepathically. But if we return the marker to where the colonists originally found it on the planet, then the hive mind will be sealed and the infection will be stopped. Now, Dr. Kind's source of this information is very suspect, because it's coming from his dead wife, but hey, it's the best we got, so we might as well do what he says. Ran past the 4 pregnants in this room and got to the shuttle hangar. Put in the missing parts and started a test fire when the hunter spawns again. This fight is exactly like the fight with it in the crypto chamber. All you have to do is lure into an area, freeze it, and then hit a button on a nearby computer. Again, if you know what to do already because this is your second time fighting it, then it takes like 20 seconds. The difference here though is that I don't freeze him in a pod, I melt him to goo with the shuttle engine, killing it this time. Dr. Kane gets in the shuttle as Isaac releases its locks from the control bay. He says he'll meet me at the flight deck where we can load the marker onto the shuttle. Kendra agrees to go along with the plan for the time being, saying, I don't know if he's crazy or not. Nah, he's crazy. Like every time we see him, he's also having a conversation with his dead wife. He is the most cuckoo you can be for Cocoa Puffs. On the way out of the level, I had to go through the room with the 4 pregnants again. I didn't need to kill any of them. I could have just ran through like I did the first time. But I'm a little greedy goblin and wanted to get all the loot from the nearby rooms. Unfortunately for me, these pregnants acted a little different than the other ones I fought. The other pregnants would never burst and give birth to the swarms of swarmers when I punched them to death, but all 4 of these guys did. I don't know if it's because of the difficulty change or because these specific pregos act differently. Regardless, I almost died because of this. Somehow the smallest and easiest enemies to kill in the game are the most dangerous to fight without guns. Dr. Mercer calls me again. The crazy bastard just goes on a rant about how this is the next stage of life and how he's about to transcend death and meet God and blah 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 blah. And then to prove to me how much he truly loves the necromorphs, he makes me watch as he gets penetrated by an infector. So safe to say he's dead. Well, actually you stumble upon his body as he's getting turned on the way out of the level, so after stomping on him for a minute, it's now safe to say he's dead. Before leaving, I stopped to appreciate just how creepy the game is. During the whole game, you can slightly hear whispers mixed in with the background noise of the creaking ship and barely make out what they're saying. Hearing the barely audible Isaac from some sort of ethereal realm is creepy as fuck. It's supposed to be one of the symptoms of the dementia that happens to anyone in the vicinity of the marker, and it's so well done because they never address it. You'll just be casually playing the game, and one time in a poorly lit room while taking a moment to organize your inventory or read a text log, you'll hear it for the first time and realize what it's saying. And from that point on, you'll feel like there's someone watching you, breathing down your neck. Because it's never mentioned in the game, it genuinely makes you feel like you're going a little bit crazy and just hallucinating the noise. I fucking love it. Stocked up on supplies for the next chapter and headed to the tram.
Already, the voice inside my head. It's always
Back to where it all started, the flight deck. The marker's in storage and I gotta hook it up to the lift so it can be loaded into the hangar. Fun fact, unloading the hangar is also a slang phrase for autoerotic asphyxiation. Now, this room is one of the hardest rooms in the game. The objective is easy. Use kinesis to move the marker to the other end of the room. But the place is crawling with necromorphs, and the second you start moving the marker, more and more spawn, including some tentacles. These tentacles are completely different from the drag ones. These guys appear from the ground and will attack Isaac when he's within their radius with a high damage smack, treating Isaac like he's the the cheek of one of the guys in a slap fight. Unlike the drag tentacles, they do not have to be killed to continue the game. Cleared the room out of the enemies that initially spawned, got hugged by this pregnant who just didn't want to let go. God, pregnant people are so hormonal and clinky. Looted this area and then started the objective. Instead of staying on this level, I went back to the entrance of the room on the second floor. There's only one vent that enemies can come out of from here, so all the enemy types that can spawn from vents can be dealt with one at a time, and separate from the other enemy types, they'll stay down below. Only one guy spawned right now, but in a moment the rest do, and that's when this trick really helped. The marker can actually be moved from up here, making this section way easier. With the upgraded kinesis, I can grab the marker and drag it to the end of the track. Now, when I first play tested this on an old run, I wasn't able to get it past the far corner. The upgraded kinesis just didn't have enough range, but I was able to do it this time by glitching out the kinesis a bit. By pushing my camera upwards while making Isaac walk forward into the wall, I must have tricked the game into thinking that he was closer to the object than he actually was. Unfortunately, I couldn't get past the bend, so I still have to go down there to finish it. Took the elevator down, but that spawned the rest of the enemies, so I went back up to complete my bottleneck trick before finishing off the marker. It was working great until I started swinging myself into a corner and the slashers were able to jump out of the vent in front of me. At that point, I was a bit overwhelmed and was almost out of stasis, so I took the elevator back down, refilled my stasis on the way, and then went back up to start freezing and beating everything up again. Man, this game is basically the training sequence from Rocky. I'm just punching frozen meat 99% of the time. I must have froze the elevator while I was moving because it was moving real slow and Isaac can't get off it till it reaches the top, so I was stuck like this for a moment. After a few minutes of punching, I was done with all the enemies up here. There were pregnants left at the bottom, and I was going to fight them, but I realized I didn't need to. I just need to get in range of the marker so I can move it with kinesis. This is great because, yeah, I got to skip the other necromorphs, but I also never ended up stepping in range of the tentacles, so they never spawned. Headed back to the hangar, got to the flight lounge, and this time I'm stuck in here with the monsters instead of just silently watching them kill my friends. This fight is pretty easy though. Most of the enemies I fight now are all enhanced, but almost all of the slashers that spawn here aren't, so it's not a problem. Went to the hangar to grab the peng, and in every dead space there's a secret item. It doesn't do anything, it's kind of just like a little meme Easter egg, but it's worth 30 G's at the store, so if I need the extra cash I can always sell it. Dr. Kane lands the shuttle, and the last thing I have to do before he can leave is load the marker. Man, even though my boss died like 2 chapters ago, I'm still running around like everyone's little I turned off gravity to the hangar so I can move the marker. This section is very similar to the one I just did. Enemies spawn as I move down the track, but other than that, it's easy. The enemies, which are just the normal 0G enemies, lurkers, and leapers, were dealt with pretty quickly because I had a ton of explosive canisters nearby I could use. I did leave a few left and made sure to explain to the chat why.
I'm trying to load these canisters over here so I can use them to fight the boss that's about to come up. That fight can be a little difficult without using guns. It's definitely going to be a hard fight, but I think I'll be able to do it. I just gotta get up there and then restore the gravity, and that's it. Then I'll be ready to fucking go and continue. Continue with the game and finish the challenge. It's going to be lots of fun, so I'm excited. There's nothing to it. I forgot to fucking pick up the shit!
The marker was loaded, we were ready to go, so I went to go meet the doctor at the shuttle. Everything was going great. And then it wasn't, especially for the doctor. Someone got inside the shuttle and shot him from the doorway. You can't see who, but whoever it was must have had a really cool gun because they shot him from the side but made a hole in the front of his chest. Must have pulled one of those curving bullet tricks from that movie The Wanted. I stood there preparing the doctor's body for his funeral, wondering who could have done this, and then to my surprise, it was the only other living character. Kendra! Who would have thought? To be honest though, this twist is fucking great. You don't really see it coming in your first playthrough. Kendra was always helpful and wanted to lead the ship, while Hammond argued for the opposite, to stay here as long as possible to complete the mission, only changes his mind right before he dies. So if any suspicion of an ulterior motive is going to be thrown, it's going to be thrown at him. The IT crew member being the spy also acts as the perfect cover. Throughout the game, there are constant communication blackouts between the three of you, which you just chalk up as another part of the ship failing. But in reality, it was a secret agent trying to keep us in the dark as much as possible. Hammond seemed in control, but he never really was. Kendra explains that she works for EarthGov, and they've been trying to find the marker for a long time. The Ishimura was conducting a illegal mining mission, going to the planet that had been sealed off for 200 years, Aegis 7. Okay, so 200 years ago, the Southern colonies created a copy of the original black marker and left it here, a red marker dubbed Marker 3A. It was an attempt to harness its energy. But it all went to shit, like it always does. Markers only create madness and death, something you think the fractions of this universe would understand at this point, but whatever. After abandoning the planet, it was sealed off and all records of it buried. So once the Ishimura got reports of the marker, and those reports somehow made it to EarthGov, they dispatched their spy and a military vessel, the USM Valor, to find and retrieve the artifact. Kendra now has the marker and is leaving Isaac to rot on the ship with the undead. She even admits that the crazy Dr. Kine was right. Returning the marker to the planet would have stopped the hive mind, but it's too late for that.
For what it's worth, you did a great job, Isaac.
Oh, hey, at least she says I did a good job running around like her little chore monkey the whole time. Finally, some appreciation for Isaac's labor. Although, he's probably gonna die now, so doesn't really matter at this point. During this little lore dump, you might have noticed me carrying an explosive canister with me up here. It's because I'm about to fight another guardian. Nicole calls me. Yeah, I bet you forgot about her too. I mean, it would make sense if you did. We last saw her in chapter 7. She kind of just fucked off after that and has somehow been surviving. And also, somehow she knows exactly what's going on, is prepared to help me, and is just waiting upstairs in the flight control room. Wow. So convenient. I'll say it again, it's almost unbelievable. On my way there, I have to fight the guardian. I shot my canister at it and got half its arms removed, so I just gotta clip the other two. I want to rush this before the room is filled with pods, so I went in close and started spamming the guy with whatever I could find. It was going okay. I was getting hit by the pods a lot. It was just an open room, so there wasn't any cover. Then the guardian shot a pod that landed at my feet right behind me. Remember, these explode if you get close.
Shit! I knew that was gonna happen. I knew it was gonna fucking happen.
Yeah, sent me flying right into the death zone. Actually, death zone is also what I call your mother's vagina. That thing is so acidic and unkept that no human zygote could survive its internal environment. It's like her own little inhospitable planet, protected from the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It doesn't matter if abortions are legal or illegal, or hell, if she even wanted one or not. It's just gonna happen in there. Listen, I would make a joke about having sex with your mother, but honestly, that's more of a diss on me. Why would I dip my reproductive organ in what is basically a vat of acid? It's disgusting. Please, tell her to shower, or better yet, go through an industrial level car wash. I still did fuck your mom though, loser. Okay, yeah, that was too much. I hadn't made a joke in a while, alright? On my second try, I got really lucky and killed the guardian immediately with the explosive canister. Thank God, that saved me a bunch of time. Nicole's waiting in the other room. She's ecstatic to be with me again and apologetic for what she did, although we have no idea what she means. What did she do? What is she sorry for? She tells us we can hijack the controls of the shuttle and recall the ship here so we can take it to the colony in Aegis 7. She wants to make us whole again. There's marker script on the screens in the room. The ethereal whispers are louder and more present. Something obviously isn't right, but hell, what other choice does Isaac have? He recalls the ship as Kendra escapes in the shuttle's escape pod. Back in the hangar, I get rushed by some leapers, but I just freeze them. Get to the shuttle, and a cutscene plays. Nicole joins me in the cockpit, and we prepare for takeoff towards the planet, finishing the chapter. Audio. I load in already at the colony and walk off the ship where my girlfriend takes the position of the deceased Hammond and starts bossing me around. I gotta bring the marker through the colony to get to the hive mind's resting place. The door's locked, so I gotta go to this little area to grab a battery. There are a few infectors behind a door, but the good old freeze and stomp method makes quick work of them. Back outside, Nicole is gone, but I'm not alone. There is this slender man looking monster rushing to give me a hug. I think this game genuinely fucks up by having Isaac only fight dividers when they're alone, because they're just too easy to deal with by themselves. If you paired this with a few leapers or something, then the chaotic nature of the divider's body parts breaking apart and attacking you, combined with the extra enemies, would make the player feel very overwhelmed and scared, which, you know, is perfect for a horror game. Plus, there could be interesting strategy to those fights. Do you ignore the divider and pick off the other guys first, leaving one enemy, which is easy to avoid but does massive damage, or do you force the divider to split apart right away, creating 5 more enemies but they're all super weak? I don't know, it just would have been fun if they did that. And it's not just this game. In Dead Space 2, you only fight dividers twice, and both times they are by themselves again. It's actually one of my biggest criticisms of the game series, its lack of enemy variety during fights. You create a universe with all these cool, interesting variants of enemies, and then rarely combine them. It's kind of a waste. To be fair to the devs, maybe it's because of technical restraints. Maybe it was too much to load in the massive brute with slashers at the same time for a 2008 PC. But the same problem happens in Dead Space 2 and 3, so I doubt that's the real reason. Of course, there are rooms where this doesn't happen, and those fights are some of the best in the game, like the quarantine fight in Chapter 9, or the fight in the marker storage with the slashers, pregos, and the tentacles. But certain enemies never get put with others, and that sucks. Dividers being one example, but some others are brutes and guardian. Imagine how cool of a fight it would be to have a hunter, the guys that infinitely regen, in a room with one exit, but there's a guardian in the way, forcing the player to kill the guardian to get out of the room, all while trying to avoid an immortal enemy. I don't know, man, it's not that big of a deal because there's still a lot of other times where they mix enemy types, but in other areas, it's clear that opportunity was wasted. When they do mix enemy types, it's often the same few, leapers with slashers or slashers with exploders. And like I said, those fights are great and they're lots of fun, but I just felt like they could have been more creative with it. I want them to do more than what they did. I feel like it's almost an unfair criticism for me to ask them to be more creative with something when they already gave us something that was so good, but I don't know, it would have been cool. I will say though, in Dead Space 2 and 3, this isn't as much of a problem, especially because they add new enemy types. One thing they do in this specific Dead Space is have different enemy types spawn in waves. While dragging the marker through the colony, quarantine happens. It's the last one of the game, so you know it's serious. In it, you have to fight a few waves of enemies. The first being slashers and lurkers, and the second wave being exploders. You would think it'd be one of the hardest fights in the game because it's one of the last big ones, but the room you fight in is filled with stasis recharge stations, so I could just automatically refill my stasis when needed. The fight still took a long ass time. There are a lot of enemies here. I think it's safe to say that no one from the colony survived. At this point in the game, I was an expert into baiting exploders for an attack and then freezing them and running away. It was so easy to get through them without taking any damage. So easy. Got the marker to the next room where the last guardian of the game is. Oh, and the second last guardian of the game. Yeah, 2 of them, right next to each other. They're blocking an entrance to an access corridor I need to go down to restore the power, so they are not optional, both must be killed. This was the longest fight of my entire playthrough. Longer than the giant-ass blob fight from chapter 6. Sure, I know how to kill them, and I have a bunch of items to throw, but there are a few issues that make this very hard. The first one is the amount of pods that spawn. With a large open space in front of them, both guardians end up spawning about 5 to 10 pods each, so at any given time there are like 15 of these things just waiting until I pop out of cover to shoot me. I also don't have a lot of health on me right now. I ended up going through a decent chunk of my stockpile during the last fight. I was taking a lot of damage for some reason. Yeah, there is a store in this room, but if I get damaged while accessing it, I'll be interrupted. And with the pods having a line of sight on me from there, it's going to be impossible to buy more health while they're deployed. And the third reason why this fight is going to be so hard is the room layout. It's a very big open space with only 4 pillars I can use as cover. 2 of these pillars are on the other side of the room, too far away to be useful for the fight. The other 2 are a little too close to the guardians. For both guardians, I'm able to damage their arms on the near side of their respective pillars without really leaving cover or taking damage. But to hit their far sides, I would need to move up to position out of cover. And with the sheer number of pods, I almost always end up getting hit, taking damage and causing Isaac to flinch, meaning I gotta re-aim for that shot. The other big issue is the angle I shoot at. Because the pillars are so close and the angle is so sharp, the items I toss almost always end up bouncing to the other side of the room. So to re-pick up my items, I usually have to step into the line of fire again. No, there are no explosive canisters nearby. I wish, but there's not. There is a stasis recharge station on the other side of the room that definitely helped out a lot, but other than that, I got nothing to help. Getting low on heals, I really had to push my luck and wait until I was very low before using a full heal. Still, the pods were shredding through my health too fast. I need to figure out a way to kill them faster than they could spawn. And that's when I remembered the ancient technique brought down from my Neanderthal forefathers. Brute force, baby. See, the pods explode if I get close, killing themselves and damaging me in the process. But like the exploders, I can freeze them to start the attack sequence. By the time they've completed it, i.e. blown themselves up, I'm long gone. It's a little risky, but not that bad, especially because I have unlimited stasis due to the recharge station. Still, I was down to yellow health with just 1 full heal left, and even if I did the suicide bombing runs on the pods perfectly, there was always a few I couldn't kill because they were within the Guardian's instant kill zone. So my next move was to try to buy heals from the store. It took a few tries to even get the store's UI open, but the closest I got was here. Don't. Oh, I had less than 2 bars of HP left, and with no more heals, it didn't take long before I was just 1 hit away from death. I felt like it was wrong to be killed by measly pods, so knowing this attempt was over, I ran to the Guardian and let it remove my skull. Second try. First thing I did was quickly see if it's possible to go back to the starter level to get to that first store. It's not. So the only way I can get the extra med packs I desperately need is from the store in the same room with the Guardians. Because the enemies reset when you respawn, at this point only a few pods have been deployed. So if I was ever going to access the store, it would be right now. I tried my best and I got close, but again got shafted before I could buy anything. It was starting to piss me off. Finally, after a few attempts and a bunch of running through the pods to clear them out, I got into the store, made it to the large med packs, and spam bought them until I was out of money. I ended up buying 4 full heals, which doesn't seem like a lot, but that more than doubled the amount of full heals I had on me, which means I practically doubled my lifetime. Now from that point on, it was a lot of the same thing I've been doing with the Guardians the whole game. Just freeze them, freeze the items, and toss. I would work on killing 1 Guardian until my stasis ran out. Then I would do a big U around the room, topping off my stasis on the far side, run down towards the other pillar, but cutting across to the original one, killing a bunch of pods of the process, then continue to work on the same Guardian. This is the best way I found to get through these guys while also keeping the pods at low numbers. I wanted to keep working on the same Guardian because the faster I would kill one of these, the sooner I slashed the spawn rate of the pods in half. Eventually I got the right Guardian down to just 1 arm, but it was always kind of blocking my shots with its fat head and beer belly, so hitting the arm when it was against the wall was near impossible. I needed a new strategy, and that's when I realized I could freeze the arm as it appeared from the Guardian's stomach. Then in those 10 seconds, while it slowly started to move itself towards the wall, I have a perfect line of sight where I can get some hits in. This was a lot easier said than done. Freezing the Guardian at the right time was basically a guessing game, so it came down to luck, and after getting fed up by this, I decided to go blow off some steam by punching Joe Joe square in his jaw. Oh yeah, that's Joe. I forgot to introduce you guys. Say hi.
Hi, Joe.
I gave up on that plan and just went to the other pillar where it had a much better angle of the arm. I didn't do this before because I knew shooting from this pillar meant I would have to step out of cover and get a lot of damage, but at this point I knew that arm was like 1 or 2 hits from falling off, so I just toughed it out, and eventually I got it. I was so focused I didn't even celebrate and just kept going. This fight was only halfway done. With one of the Guardians gone, I decided to do a few run-throughs of the pods to clear as many as I could. Got rid of all the pods on the right side, and without their ability to respawn, I effectively cut down my damage intake by 50%. Kept fighting the last Guardian. It took a while. A lot of it was me running around to collect the items I threw just to have more ammo to toss, but slowly I was killing it. It was just very slow. Eventually I had 1 arm left and I had just gotten to the other pillar so I can re-pick up all my tossed items. But while over there, I saw a random vent fan on the floor. I don't know where this came from. I don't know if it just appeared now or if it's been here the whole time and I didn't see it, but I don't care. This thing is going to save me. Remember, fan blades are one of the few items that deal very high kinetic damage. Waited till its arm came out, froze it, and with 1 shot, I cut off the arm, killing the last Guardian of the game. Was a little paranoid that I was faking his death, so I did stay still for a full minute making sure it didn't move anymore. Before I did anything else, I went to the safe station to make sure I didn't lose any of this progress. That whole fight took an hour and I did not want to do it again. Picked up all my items, sold them, and then restockpiled my health and stasis packs. I ended up selling the Peng for the extra 30 Gs, that's 3 full heals right there. Satisfied with my loadout, I continued the mission. I just need to get down to this tunnel system to turn on the power and then back out again. It's easy, there are enemies that spawn, but you can outrun them, or outfly them, I guess. Whatever, you know what I mean. Back in the big room, a brute spawns. Sure, it's enhanced, but it's just a brute by itself, so it's no problem. Just takes a lot of stomping to kill it. Got outside and yeah, I'm gonna have to fight that, aren't I? This is the last part of the rail system that I gotta drag the marker down. Just straight ahead. Should be easy, right? Now, the tentacles make a return here. These guys are like the ones in the cargo bay. They are stationary and will smack me if I'm within their range, so I just gotta stay out of their range. But unlike the cargo bay, I can't just push the marker to the end from a safe place. I'm gonna have to go down that walkway while moving the marker, trying my best to avoid being turned into sludge. There are also a bunch of enemies that spawn here, including enhanced slashers, enhanced lurkers, and some twitchers. The twitchers are definitely the worst out of all these guys because they can dodge my stasis shots and close distance really fast. I got grappled here at low health and almost died. Barely made it out, and I knew I needed to act now. I couldn't stay here, I would get surrounded and overrun, so I needed to move, and there's really only one way to go. Yeah, this is stupid, but I was dying out there, and well, now I'm dying in here too. I kept healing after each hit, but at this pace I would soon run out of med packs. That's when I realized the power of the tentacle smack. It's like splash damage, like an explosive impact. Sure, it was killing me, but it was also one-hitting every necromorph in its path. Ran to the end of the platform, froze every enemy I could while they were in range of the tentacles, and yeah, I was getting smacked with them, but in the brief periods of time where Isaac's face wasn't on the floor, I was able to make progress with the marker. And eventually I realized at the very, very end of the platform, I was out of reach of the tentacles. So I could stay here, the enemies would be right in front of me, a tentacle would come down, they would die, and I wouldn't take any damage. Finally, there was a break in the barrage and I was able to get the marker back to its rightful place. All the enemies despawn. Nicole somehow emerges from the back of the marker, talking as she was the marker. She thanks me for making us whole and then disappears. An EMP goes off, finally stopping the necromorph infection, but the game's not done yet. See, that EMP also hit the Ishimura, it triggered a power failure, and that caused its gravity tethers to go out. So the giant chunk of rock the Ishimura is holding is about to crash into the planet and wipe Isaac out like he is one of the dinosaurs. I gotta get the fuck out of here, and quick. Was about to head out of this decontamination chamber when Kendra appears. Guess she used an escape pod to crash land on the planet so she could seal back the marker. As she starts to bring the marker back to the shuttle, she confesses that she really liked Isaac. I don't know if she means like as a friend or like, because he's got a girlfriend, Nicole. She was actually just here. Wait, where did she go? Actually, Kendra mentions Nicole, says something about how Isaac's insane and how he needs to watch to the end of that video Nicole sent me. Remember that video Isaac was watching when the game started? Well, if he just watched it for like 10 more seconds, he would have seen his girl game end herself. I guess she didn't want to end up brutally murdered by slashers, so she took her own life well before Isaac arrived on the ship. And the entire time, the marker was making Isaac hallucinate her. Like Kendra says, he is as insane as Dr. Kine, and has been the entire time. The marker was trying to control him, to get him to return it to the planet, to make him whole. And it worked. The reveal is so goddamn good. You kind of know now that something's up with Nicole, the way she just appears and disappears throughout your misadventures, but so much crazy shit's happening during the game that you almost don't get time to question it and just go along with it. Kind of have no other choice anyways. The game does a good job of reminding you that Nicole exists, but without putting her too much in your face to question the validity of it. I didn't talk about all the times Nicole's mentioned in the game, but it's much more than just the beginning in Chapter 7. You'll be running through a corridor in some random part of the ship, and then briefly Nicole will talk to you through your rig. A quick and broken up message.
Where are you? It's me, Nicole.
In retrospect, it seems obvious that it's a delusion, but when it first happens, you just chalk it up to another weak connection or signal blockage. It was happening between Isaac and his other crew members. Maybe Nicole's been trying to contact him since he got on the ship, and finally she got through. Even if it was just for a second, it's enough to make her seem real, enough to keep Isaac going, enough to convince the player that she is alive. As the game goes on and Isaac becomes more exposed to the marker, his dementia gets worse. Soon the apparitions of Nicole start making less and less sense. The more she talks, the more you start to understand that she is somehow involved with the marker. Why would she want to make it whole? Shouldn't she just want to get out of here? As you play the game, more clues towards the truth slowly reveal themselves, and those whisperings you can just barely hear in the background start to make sense. It's always been the marker. Since Isaac stepped on the ship, he has been a victim just like everybody else. It was never luck that kept Isaac alive and unaffected by the infection, because he always has been. You just didn't know it, and neither did he. Probably one of my favorite Easter eggs is a secret message found in the chapter titles. If you take the first letter of each chapter and spell it out, you get the message, Nicole is dead. I love it because it's not just a cool little secret. If the player was vigilant enough, they could have discovered the twist early, but the message doesn't make sense until you really start to get to the last few chapters. And at that point, you should know something's wrong with Nicole. The Easter egg ends up revealing the secret at about the same time the narrative does, which I just think is really cool. Okay, so it turns out Nicole was actually the marker talking through her apparition, but why did the marker want Isaac? In this game, the marker just wanted to be placed in the pedestal so it could be connected with the hive mind, but that's since been retconned in the remake, so it makes sense with the series lore. The marker wanted Isaac to bring it here so it could imprint itself onto Isaac's mind, and it happened during that little EMP. Well, not little, like huge EMP, and it's bringing down that giant chunk of rock, so I better start running back to the shuttle because that's the only way off of this doomed planet. While running back, the ground starts to shake and you can hear the hive mind cry out. It wants the marker back. I'm gonna have to fight it in a second. In this little area, there's a bench and a store. I can get myself fully prepared for the last fight of the game. Now, benches have been pretty useless to me since I finished upgrading my rig, but I have been spending all the power nodes I found on upgrading my pulse rifle. I could use all the pulse rifle ammo packs I have in my inventory as items for throwing and be okay in case of an emergency because I'll still have 175 shots loaded in my gun. Sold as much as I could so I can buy as much health as I could and went outside. Kendra starts to run up the shuttle ramp, but before she can get inside, a tentacle appears and, well, frankly, beats the living shit out of Kendra. As in, she's, like, no longer living. Yeah. Tentacles block my escape, and from out in front of me, the hive mind emerges. There's some good news and some bad news for this fight. The good news is that there are a bunch of explosive canisters I can use to hit its weak spots. The bad news is that like half of them get exploded when the tentacles start dropping on me. Okay, well with those gone, the only other thing I could do is try and hit its weak points with my items, kind of like how I did it with the Guardian and the Leviathan. But the difference here is that this isn't a closed room. After I shoot my items at the beast, they're gone. They'll fall into the abyss behind it. Because of this, I quickly ran through all my supplies. I had to get real close to the guy because my items wouldn't reach it otherwise, so I did get smashed a lot. Kind of like how I smashed your mom. Dropped my second last health pack, tossed it at one of its 5 weak points, and I broke it, confirming that I am damaging it. I might be able to actually kill this thing. A little bit later, I had nothing left in my inventory. I ran around looking for anything to throw, but all I could find were a few pieces of broken item boxes. I thought it was done for when I noticed a blue light right above the tentacles surrounding the perimeter. I guess some of my items glitched out and just ended up here. It didn't matter though, there was only a few of them, and some of them I couldn't even grab. Before giving up and retrying the entire fight from the beginning, I want to try one more thing. So in a lot of games, especially newer games, if you run out of ammo during a boss fight, a random item box or pack of ammo will spawn. It's the dev's way of helping out the player. Knowing this, I carefully emptied the clip in my contact beam and pulse rifle, making sure not to hit the hive mind so it wouldn't count as a fail. After doing that, I ran around for a bit, hoping something would appear, but nothing ever spawned and nothing ever changed. I tried punching the tentacles when they came down, but that doesn't do anything. Sure, it makes the impact noise, so Isaac is hitting it, but it's not a weak spot. It's not actually doing any damage. And trust me, I know this because I did it for 15 minutes, and eventually I just let it turn me into a limbless torso. There is nothing else I could think of to help me with this fight. I quickly checked to see if there's any skips on Google, but there's nothing. It has to die in order to finish the game. So my next life, I tried to hurt it as much as I could by tossing items, and after getting rid of 2 weak spots this time, I was out of items to throw. So I had to switch to shooting, getting another fail. Obviously, I shot more than once here, but it's just one enemy, so I'm down to call this whole fight just one giant L. The fight is super easy, just avoid the tentacles and take your time when aiming. Your controls get inverted because Isaac's upside down, and I only had the ammo that was left in my clip, but still it's not too hard, so I was able to do it. Even if I was able to remove more weak spots, I guess I would have failed at this point anyways, because you're unable to drop and grab items when you're like this. Some pregnants do spawn, and I was going to try to grab their blades to shoot them at the hive mind, but they end up being obliterated by the tentacles, so I wasn't able to get anything. Eventually, I killed the big worm guy on the shuttle and launched right before the tectonic load crashes into the planet. Isaac made it. He survived. He may be the only one, but he got out unscathed. Well, kinda. Yeah, that little jump scare at the end made me throw off my headphones the first time I saw it. He might have destroyed the marker, but it was too late. It already imprinted on him, which is gonna be like the whole plot of Dead Space 2. Anyways, with that, the challenge is done. No, you can't beat Dead Space without guns, but you can get pretty damn close. With a total playtime of 18 hours, 37 minutes, and 21 seconds, my total fail count is 8. 3 from the drag tentacles, 4 from the gravity tethers, and 1 from the hive mind. This video took a long while to write, sorry about that, but I hope you enjoyed it regardless. I really love making this video. Dead Space is just so fucking good. If you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, sub, or even share. It helps me grow my channel, but even if you don't, thanks again for watching. The amount of lore surrounding Dead Space is awesome, and all of the games are great. Yeah, even number 3. It's not like comparable to the first 2, but it's still a pretty good game. And if you like the lore of the series, number 3 adds a lot of cool stuff. There's actually a lot of media related to the first game that you can watch, play, and read if you're interested, including Dead Space Extraction, an on-the-rails shooter made for the Wii and the PlayStation Move. Yeah, remember that cheap attempt to copy the Wii? I don't think you can really play it anymore, but you can watch a playthrough of it on YouTube. It depicts the beginnings of the infection in the colony and on the Ishimura. It answers a lot of questions and explains why the ship is in the state it's in, like the ADS. It was shut off by characters in Extraction so they can escape the ship without being shot by it. There are 2 animated movies, one about the start of the infection and one about the aftermath of the planet being destroyed, and a few books. There's a lot. Like, even in this game, there's a bunch of stuff I didn't talk about, and this video is almost 2 hours long. Like, the Unitologists. It's a religion within the game's universe. Well, more like a cult. They believe the markers are divine and want to spread the infection. A bunch of the crew in the Ishimura were secret Unitologists and were trying to ensure the marker's success. Like Dr. Mercer, that's why he's on the side of the necromorphs. It's a whole side plot that explains a lot of the politics in-game, and in the next 2 Dead Spaces, the Unitologists are very big parts of the story. Now, before I end this video, I want to talk about Patreon for a second. How many people do you think just exited the video? Probably like 50%, right? Like, they heard me say the word Patreon, they're like, fuck, fuck, fuck. Anyways, listen, I'm a super small YouTuber. These videos get like 500 views, so by no means am I expecting people to pay me for content at this point. But I did make a Patreon just to preemptively reserve the URL. I'll be linking it in all my video descriptions from this point on. I just wanted to mention it so no one's confused as to why it's popping up now. I'm gonna start filming Dead Space 2 with no guns in the next few weeks, so if you want to catch me doing that, just follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/crispy645. I want to give a quick shout out to Ramsey and Sharkat. I watch a lot of their videos while looking for skips, especially Sharkat's tutorial videos. That's where I learned how to do the pulse rifle wall boost thingy. They both have world record speedruns of this game. I'll link in the description if anybody's interested. Thanks again for watching. Have yourself a good day. Peace.
Oh man, When my friend Neil bent over, this happened. Does somebody know, is this COVID related? And if it is, what do we do about it? Ow.